don't know how much it would be in like dollars, but in pounds, I got paid about £3,000 for it.
It's like so much money. I'm gonna say it's about a 1-to-1 usually, kind of. Probably a 99. It definitely was. But
I mean, I was a student at the time when I got it, and in England we can drink at 18.
Well, you can drink at 17 too. Let's be honest. Welcome to a slightly delayed episode of 1999 the podcast. I am John Brooks.
I am Jen Tisdale.
What, did you forget your name for a second there? You were like, I
was pausing for dramatic effect, but in my mind I was saying to myself, I am over the Notting Hill. But not
you're not over it,
the Notting Hill.
And you're in love with it.
I'm about to be older, so I was trying to be like, what can I combine my birthday in this movie to make it topical? And
that's right. It was recently your birthday, and so now you're my
it will
age.
be my birthday on February 23rd.
Oh, that's right. It is recently going to be your birthday.
It
soon.
Is recently going to be. I will
so
be over the Notting Hill. No.
Yeah. You'll be my age in a few days. Which is, I think, 44. Wait, how old? 44. 44?
Mm-hmm. I'll be 44.
Yeah, okay.
Aging against the machine.
I swear to God, people think it's a joke, but I literally just forget how old I am.
Well, I think it's because men don't think about it.
It's in the early to mid 40s, but I can never fucking remember.
Yeah.
And it's confusing because I was born in 79. Oh, you know this because you were born in 80. So it's like I look at the date and I'm like 24, so I should be 45, but it's not.
Yeah, just add the 1. For me, it's quite easy. Quite easy.
I know. Anyways, happy birthday.
Thank
soon.
You.
You're welcome. And today we're going back towards the top of the list. We're looking at the 16th highest grossing movie of 1999. And by the way, we will next week be back into the top 10 for the number 9 highest grossing movie. And that's been a while since we've been in the top 10 of
seems
the
like
highest
seems like that movie really ran away with the box
it did
office.
With the box office. Someone was insert Julia Roberts joke here. The box office. I can't think of anything.
Oh God. Well, that's okay. You made a big mistake. Huge.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know.
What's the one where all the worst women you knew 20 years ago were reading that fucking book and she was in the movie?
Oh, Eat, Pray, Love.
That's the one. Someone eat, prayed, and loved the box office in 1999, and her name was Julia Roberts. There, I got the joke. Released in these United States, May 28th, 1999, and opening second place at $27.7 million, behind number 1, The Phantom Menace, which in its second weekend earned $67 million. So second place doesn't really count when you're dealing with The Phantom Menace in 1999. It would go on to make $160 million domestically and $364 million worldwide on a $42 million budget. Not a bad return on investment. Starring Julia Roberts and Hugh Grant, alongside Rhys Ifans, James Dreyfuss, Gina McKee, Hugh Bonneville, who I love in this movie, Dylan Moran, Emily Mortimer, Alec Baldwin, the late Emma Chambers, very sad, and Misha Barton.
Yep, Baby Barton.
Written by one of 2 Misha Barton, Baby Barton movies of the year. The other one being The Sixth Sense. You got it. Written by the great Richard Curtis and directed by the late Roger Mitchell. Today we are beginning RomCom season in the posh London neighborhood of Notting Hill. So Jen, what's Notting Hill about?
It's about William Thacker, played by the tiny nippled Hugh Grant, which I will talk about. If anyone who will listen, I've talked about this man's nipples, and I'm not body shaming. Please, this is not a judgment. This is just a fact. He has very small nipples. He is a London dweller, bookstore owner, specifically travel books. That's how you know
Yes.
you're in 1999. You can have an entire bookstore devoted entirely to travel books.
And you can be failing at it and making no money and afford a fucking house in Notting Hill.
And we'll
Better
talk.
days.
I'd love to
Better
also
days.
talk about the tropes of people who have high fidelity failing businesses that I think are kind of cool, and
Yeah.
also cool apartments, and I don't know how they
Yeah.
afford them.
Yeah.
He is living a post-divorce sort of sad life with his incredible roommate, played by Reese. Say his last name for me again, because I keep forgetting how to
Evans.
pronounce it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Evans, yeah.
And lo and behold, his life changes when the most famous woman in the world, actor Anna Scott, enters his store, played by the fantastic Julia Roberts, or as I like to call her, Eric Roberts' sister.
Yeah, or Emma Roberts' aunt.
Indeed.
Yeah.
I think we both know what happens. It's a will they, it's a won't they, are they, aren't they, do they, don't they? They do. They will.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, that's about it. I don't want to be too specific because we kind of like that is the gist of it. I love this movie.
It's really
I
great.
love this movie.
It's really great. Notting Hill was the second of several successful ventures between Grant and writer and Mr. Bean creator Richard Curtis, following 1994's Four Weddings and a Funeral and predating 2001's Bridget Jones's Diary and 2003's Love Actually.
What a murder's row of commies.
Huey Granty commies. Yes. The plot of Notting Hill was inspired by the real-life story of a friend of Curtis's who had apparently also fallen in love with a famous celebrity, but it also built on themes that were very much of the moment, including, of course, the overbearing and malicious British entertainment press, who had recently been blamed for the 1997 death of Princess Diana, and, of course, Grant's own public scandal a couple years prior. The roles were written for Roberts and Grant, especially, as Grant had become something akin to Curtis's alter ego. As director Roger Mitchell noted, Hugh does Richard better than anyone else, and Richard writes Hugh better than anyone else, and Grant is one of the only actors who can speak Richard's lines perfectly. Curtis had hoped that Four Weddings director and raving madman Mike Newell would direct, but he had already committed to 1999's Pushing Tin, see this season later on for more on that movie, at which point he turned to the then relative novice Mitchell, whose biggest project at the time had been the critically acclaimed 1995 adaptation of Jane Austen's Persuasion, as well as the 1998 drama Titanic Town starring Julie Waters and Kieran Hines. Notting Hill was nearly as big a hit with critics as it was with audiences. It holds a certified fresh 84 rating on Rotten Tomatoes and a Metacritic score of 68, including 2 scores of 100 from the New York Daily News' Jamie Bernard and the San Francisco Chronicle's Bob Graham, who wrote, quote, "Star power finds an unlikely match in self-deprecating English humor in Notting Hill. Roberts plays Anna Scott, the biggest star in the movie Galaxy, and mere mortal Grant is as diffident bookstore owner William Thacker. They are so right for the roles that it's impossible to imagine anyone else playing them. He has no lips, but that's okay. She has lips enough for both of them."
That is a weird thing to put into a
Sure
film review.
But I had to keep it. It comes as a
You
bonus.
didn't write it. That's okay.
It comes as a bonus that this romantic comedy is one of the rare pictures of its type that actually is about something, the double-edged sword of celebrity. There's not a weak link in the supporting cast, which includes Emma Chambers as Thacker's carrot-topped Raggedy Ann doll of a sister, and Tim McInerney and Gina McKee as an underachieving couple who have accepted their lot. Rhys Ifans stands out as Spike, Thacker's mangy roommate. You can almost smell his BO, and a bundle of irrelevancies and non sequiturs. He has a terrible teeth, exhales smoke through his nose into goggles, hangs in and out of his underwear, and puts out his cigarette in the kitchen sink.
All of that made me violently nauseous, especially the smoke into the goggles.
In another favorable review, Desson Thompson wrote that, quote, "In the end, the movie works because Grant and Roberts are disarming geniuses at playing themselves, and then some." And giving the film 3 stars, Roger Ebert wrote in the Chicago Sun-Times, "The movie is bright, the dialogue has wit and intelligence, and Roberts and Grant are very easy to like. By the end, as much as we're aware of the ancient story machinery groaning away below deck, we're smiling. I have, however, 2 quibbles. The first involves the personality of Grant's character. Nobody is better at being diffident, abashed, and self-effacing than Hugh Grant, but there comes a point where the diffidence becomes less a manner, more of a mannerism. Hint, once a woman spends the night with you, you can stop apologizing for breathing in her presence. My other problem is with the soundtrack, which insists on providing a running commentary in the form of song lyrics that explain everything. There's a moment, for example, when Anna disappears from William's life and he is sad and lonely and mopes about the city. A few violins and maybe some wind in the trees would have been fine. Instead, the soundtrack assaults us with Ain't No Sunshine, which is absolutely the last thing we need to be told. Ebert was not alone coming after the music choices, however, and Ernest Hardy in Film.com wrote that, quote, "It has to be noted that the music in this film is the worst in recent memory, maudlin, syrupy, and overwrought." But the unkind reviews were very unkind, and the Village Voice Dennis Lim, who obviously also hated Four Weddings, and I shudder to ask him about Love Actually, wrote, quote, It is not the filmmakers stress a sequel to Four Weddings and a Funeral, which writer Richard Curtis is also responsible for, but it fits the latter-day Hollywood definition of the term. Same movie, only worse. Stephanie Zakaric in Salon wrote, quote, "The worst sin of all is that Notting Hill is deadly dull. Curtis substitutes paper doll cutouts for characters, and Roger Mitchell's direction is so slack and static that every scene ambles interminably." And worst of all, Scott Kelton Jones in the Dallas Observer, who wrote, quote, "The big romance here isn't between William and Anna. They're almost unnecessary, pretty people in a pretty movie about pretty much nothing. Rather, the love affairs between Hollywood and itself. Notting Hill offers another example of movie makers consoling themselves about how tough it is to be famous while congratulating themselves on how down-to-earth they really are. The audience ends up acting just like William's friends, wanting the two star-crossed lovers to get together, but only because that's the way the fairy tale goes." So some very enthusiastic, positive reviews overall, beloved by critics, but man, the ones that hated it really fucking went after it. And it's one of those situations where I'm like, what were you watching?
I suspect they were remembering Four Weddings and a Funeral, unless except for the one guy who hated that movie, and I think that that's an unfair comparison, of course. But
maybe maybe I think
because everyone kept referring to it. Well, I watched. Well, I think so because when I watched Hugh Grant in interviews during the press junket for that time, not for Horse and Hound magazine, but just representing himself as an actor, he said all of the language in the press releases going out kept referring to it as a sequel, even though it wasn't. So I imagine the energy going into it was, oh, we're being told this is kind of like a spiritual sequel, so that's what we were getting, and then. So I don't know. Blame whoever wrote up all those little press material, because evidently going into it, people were thinking that's what was going on.
Right. So before we get completely into Notting Hill, we have another special guest today. So here now is our talk with the Cookie Monster from Notting Hill. So here's how this went down. Your ex-husband, who we found out you're on very good terms with, which is really good. We saw he tweeted something at us on a post we made about Notting Hill, and told us what you're about to tell us. And so I passed it on to Jen, and Jen said, 2 questions. Do you think they're still on good terms? And if so, can he get us in touch with her?
This is very valid. That lots of things can happen. I wanted to respect your status, as you would say, and status, as I would say. Mm-hmm. So sorry, I will be referencing your accent nonstop, because I was just like, John has family from the United Kingdom, but I'm just over here like obsessing over it like a weirdo in America. So I'm excited.
Fine. I think we've got mutual fascination with each other's accents, because I'm like, oh my gosh, they're American. They sound really exotic.
She's not using any U's in those those Z's or S's, or those S's or Z's.
It's cheaper that way. Yeah, to cut off the U's. So anyway, he did, and that was great. And I'm glad you're on good terms. I assumed he wouldn't be sharing stories about your time in the Hollywood spotlight if he didn't have your blessing. So anyway, turns out that is the case. Would you like to give yourself a quick introduction before we chat a little bit more?
Yeah, I don't really know what to say, but I'll try.
Hollywood celebrity.
I'll try. I'm not a celebrity in any way. You were a normal person. Oh, everyone says that, don't they? I'm a normal person.
That's what all the celebrities say, Claire.
Yeah, they're just like celebrities. They're just like us. That's what they
They're
always
not.
say.
They have personal shoppers and like chefs and
Yes.
pool boys. I'd quite like a pool boy, but I haven't
They
got
hang
a
out.
pool.
They hang out at travel bookshops in Notting Hill.
You don't even need a pool. You can just have the boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think he'd just sort of clean out the bath? I don't know.
You know, he could be like Hank Azaria in the Birdcage, just bebopping around with a pair of tiny denim shorts.
The bath
Yes, that's absolutely fine. Anyway,
boy.
so yeah, I'm Claire. I did a lot of dancing and stuff when I was younger, and then I got into with the help of my parents. I've got an identical twin sister. And we both
Claire, stop it. This is my other obsession. No, they're coming together in one.
I'll show you something a bit later then, if you like. So yeah, me and my sister, we sort of did a lot of stuff together, including the dancing, and then we got into some extra work. And I was with this extras agency, and I've been in around about the same time. I've been in a few films, but you can't really see me much in there at all. I'm in the background. You can probably see like my hand in or something, or me holding an umbrella. That's about it. And we were invited to go to a chat with a casting director. I think we went to go and see them face to face, because they wanted to do a very quick scene where a young girl walked into the hairdressers looking quite normalish, and then she walked straight out with a wacky hairstyle. That's the kind of way they sort of penned it, really. And we were like, yeah, we'll do it, it's absolutely fine. My sister got cut out of it.
Yeah.
No.
She do the magic switch. Yeah, that's
no. But you know what, you guys, she can just say it was like, who's to say? I mean, probably you might be credited by your name, but
no, I don't think I'm even on as a credit on the movie.
I guess because if you don't have a speaking part, I don't know. Hollywood.
You're given a character name of Cookie Monster. I think you should get credit as Cookie Monster Girl.
Anytime I tell people that I'm in Notting Hill and they go, which bit? And I go, the Cookie Monster. Everyone knows who it is.
It's iconic.
So
it is up there with like Franca Potenti as like the second most iconic 1999 hairdo in film. It's Lola and then you.
Later repurposed by Mila Jovovich in The Fifth Element. Now,
earlier,
obviously that was a wig, or was it earlier? Sorry, whoops.
Yeah.
Wig.
It was a wig. I don't know. Were people that wacky back in there?
Yes, in the 90s. Yes, that was Manic Panic.
Yeah, I did go through a phase of having like a shortish bob with purple hair. So yeah, it could have happened, but no, it was a wig at the time. I had to go in for like an afternoon so that they could do the wig fitting, and they got it specially made. I'm gutted that I didn't get to keep it at all.
That sucks.
Yeah.
But
I got to keep the outfit. I've actually got it still in my garage. I've got the trousers, the leggings. They're like leggings, and I've got it's like a pink suede jacket, and I've still got it in my garage.
Ooh, that's good.
It's a cool jacket. I like it.
If this had been filmed, I probably would have gone, hang on a minute, I'm going to go to the garage.
If you think of it, maybe email us some photos and we can put it on social media. If you're comfortable, that would be great. A pink suede jacket, that's timeless.
I'm not going to put the trousers on because...
No, you can lay them out if you don't want to.
Yeah, you don't have to wear them.
It's slightly bigger than it used to be when I was 17.
You were 17.
Wild.
I mean, I guess I was 19 then, but I don't know, 17.
As a baby.
Now, I'm assuming you didn't get to speak to anyone, or did you catch a glimpse of a Grant or a Roberts? Okay,
no,
tell me.
I did, because we worked for a few days on it, just doing a little bit of behind the scenes things. My dog and my dad were actually in it as well at one point, but they got cut out as well.
Oh my God, your whole family's just cut out of this movie except for you.
I know. They did a scene where someone was jogging and then they cut it out. And they did another scene where Rhys Ifans' character was the guy that plays the nutty
yes. I'm
flatmate.
We know who Reese Evans is.
Yeah,
incredible t-shirt work in this.
We'll be talking a lot about him in this episode. So
he's great in it.
Yeah.
So they did one where he jumped on. So it all got out to the press in the story that she was dating this normal guy, and how it got out in the press originally, like in the story, was Reese Evans went into the pub and jumped on the one of the tables and just was shouting, I can't remember what's her name
Anna Scott.
That's it. He was like, Emma Scott is dating my friend, and shouting it in the pub, and that's how the press got to find out.
Can you think of anything else that you were aware of that didn't make it, other than your poor family?
Poor family.
Cursed.
There was
cursed out of this motion picture.
There was probably many more things cut out of it, but I was involved in quite a small part of the whole movie. But I was there for about 3 or 4 days because they wanted to sort out. I had to go shopping at one point, which was quite exciting, to get the outfit. So I helped to choose the outfit, which at 17, I was like, oh, this is so cool. Oh my God. So although I don't actually think that anyone uses the word cool anymore. But at the time I was like, this is great. And as a student, I thought I'd got paid megabucks for it, which, I mean,
do you feel comfortable sharing? I don't. That's like such a crass question, but I'm curious. I'm always curious
for
about.
About 4 days at the time, because I was classed as a feature role, which is in between having a speaking role and
an extra
background work. Yeah.
That then you have to be paid more because you're featured. So I got paid about, I don't know how much it would be in like dollars, but in pounds I got paid about £3,000 for
it. It's like so much money. I'm gonna say it's about a 1-to-1 usually, kind of. Probably a 99 it definitely was. But wow.
I was a student at the time when I got it, and in England we can drink at 18.
Yeah,
and
you
I
can.
was not far off 18. So
you can drink at 17 too, let's be honest. Come on.
Wait, I thought you guys could drink at 16. Kind of.
You have a parent with you.
If you go out for a meal.
And that's what you want. You want to bring mom and dad straight to the pub and get shit-faced.
Drinks are on me. Why don't we even go to a strip club while we're at it?
That's right. Hey, Dad, buy yourself something nice.
For context, we interviewed the guy who wrote She's All That, and he got paid $5,000 to write She's All That. So
wow.
When you adjust for everything, you got paid more to do that walk-on role. He ended up getting paid more after the movie made $100+ million at the box office. But initially, he was paid less to write She's All That than you were to be blue-haired person in Notting Hill.
So it just pays to just say I'll wear a wig and walk out of a hairdresser's.
100%. Yep. And have Hugh Grant call me Cookie Monster, which will be my legacy for the rest of my life.
Did you know, I'm assuming you knew, did you know that you were going to be part of the opening credits, more or less, and Hugh Grant narrating over everything and singling you out specifically? Did you know any of that yet? I'm sure maybe you didn't read the whole script.
No, not at all.
Wow.
I didn't get to read the script at all. They basically just sort of went, oh, your sister can just walk in, and right now you walk out again. And we did quite a few takes of that. I don't know how many. It's quite a while ago now.
I wish they had kept that in, because that's just so fun. That's so fun. I wish they had kept both of you in.
Yeah.
Did you get to go to a premiere at all?
I did. We got to go to a cast and crew screening, but the main cast they weren't there. I think they, quite major actors are busy people, to be fair to them. So they're probably off doing their next project, and they probably just turned up at the major premieres in London and New York and things like that. So this was in a private screening. I can't remember, it was somewhere in London, and it was a really nice little cinema, and I got to keep, if I can dig it out, I will find it and then send it to you on email. I got given a copy of the script, in a little book.
In a leather-bound book, right?
Well, it wasn't leather bound. It was like a little red. I can find it somewhere.
Still.
Yeah, but it was quite cute little thing, and I was like, "Oh, I get to keep it. Oh, okay."
That's wonderful.
I have two things I have to ask you. One is, so your aforementioned ex-husband mentioned that, and I don't know if he got this story right, but that you found yourself in a cab with receipt funds and you thought he was also one of the extras. Is this true?
Yeah.
Which is fine because he wasn't famous yet. I mean, obviously he's he's much more famous and well-known actor now, but like that was the first thing I ever saw him in for sure. And you look at the way he's dressed up for the movie and you'd be like, oh, clearly you're a guy who just hangs out in the background looking creepy. Yeah, what was that exchange like?
Oh, well, we were going to go from, I can't remember where it was, somewhere to the actual set to do some filming. Or I think he was going to set to do some filming. I was getting taken there to talk to the director, or the assistant director, because not many people get to speak to the actual director. They're like a god. So we were put in they went, oh, just go in this, we've got our driver, just go in this this little minivan and they'll take you to set. It's only 5 minutes away. I went, okay, got in, trotted off and got in there. And then there was Rhys Ifans, and I didn't know who he was. I'd never met him before. I'd never even spoken to him before. I've never seen him in anything before. And he went, I can't do a Welsh accent. And he was just sadly not a great accent. But he was like, oh, hello there. Oh, I'm where have you been? And he just had verbal diarrhea. And he and I just thought, oh, he's a bit weird.
He's odd.
He's quite fun. and then he was going on to the driver about how he wanted to go and see his girlfriend, and he was hoping he wasn't going to be filming for too long because she was going to be waiting for him and they were going to go for dinner or something. And I was like, who is this bloke? And then I just thought he was a background artist like me, like we were sharing it, and like, you know, he was a bit odd, and because I didn't know who he was. And then it was only when I watched it in the cinema, like in that screening, and I went, he was part of that. If I'd have known, I might not have been able to talk properly. I was a bit more shy as a younger version of myself, I guess. So it's probably a good job because he was lovely, really friendly, really nice guy.
Yeah.
I couldn't fault him at all. He was, hopefully he's been like that throughout his whole career, but I've never heard anything bad ever said about him as an actor. So I'm presuming he is. But he was lovely and really funny, really funny. He came across quite like his character, but
weird, delightfully weird.
A bit weird, but fun.
Is he a bit of a method actor? I kind of think he might be.
I want that to be him because I find that character to be so just wonderfully likable and strange. Although I couldn't live with him, it would drive me crazy. Like truly, the state of that house was really giving me personally a lot of anxiety, and I couldn't handle it. But.
Well, I mean, the sort of roles he's played since, he's much more of a kind of handsome, sophisticated guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like that seems to be more what he, you know, little weird, but like, I don't know. He's much more sort of classy in his roles. I don't know. I wonder how much he is like that character, or if he just sort of was getting into the.
Not sure. No.
I can tell you that.
Have him on and ask him.
Yes, maybe you've kept in touch. I am curious about, I don't know, I know it's not Notting Hill related, but I am curious to know the other movies that either you or you and your sister, or maybe just your sister worked on or were on, or, you know, just your hand was there waving.
I was background in a film called Mojo. So in this country, we've got a quite a big film production side of a TV channel called Channel 4.
Oh, I know Channel 4.
Yeah. And they do a lot of like indie type movies. So that was an indie movie. And I was in something called Bring Me the Head of Mavis Davis.
Well, that's a wonderful name.
I know. That had Rick Mail in it.
Mm.
You know who Rick Mail is?
Yep.
Yeah. And I can't remember her name now. Anyway, I was in the background when they did a couple of scenes outside with fans.
Yeah.
But you can't really see me that much. And I was also in another film called Fever Pitch.
Oh, come on!
Excuse me, I know Fever Pitch very well. Yeah.
You can just about see me. I think I'm like sitting on some guy's shoulders going past in a crowd at one point. But
I'm assuming, you said Colin Firth, not the weird American reboot with Jimmy Fallon and Drew Barrymore. I read the book.
Ooh.
Sorry guys. Sorry, we're on my Hornby heads at. Colin Firth. My God, Claire, did you get your eyes? Did you get your peepers
I
on?
met him.
Claire, you buried the lead, Claire.
I've got a picture with him somewhere. He's
send that to us too.
Send that to us. Did you guys keep in touch? You and Mr. Darcy? You and Mr. Darcy twice over? Speaking of Hugh Grant.
We dated for a little while.
Okay, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm not even mad. I'm not even mad about it.
We didn't.
Age difference.
My mum got to meet him and she couldn't even talk. I was like, Mum, that's really.
Colin Firth is every mom's favorite actor.
Mr. Darcy.
Mr. Darcy.
Mr. Darcy 1 and then Mr. Darcy 2 and Bridget Jones.
By the way, some pretty great actors in Mojo. We got Ian Hart, Ewan Bremer, Aidan Gillen. Andy Serkis.
Andy Serkis. God bless him.
I was in the same room as Andy Serkis.
And was he like always trying to grab at your ring or just a little bit of what's to come? Andy, get off. Andy.
Not yet. We're not there yet.
He was just already getting into it. Years.
All right,
years.
I have to know about your time in the newspaper spotlight. So do you want to show Jen?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, let's take a look.
I dug this out, and it's from it's from the local newspaper where I lived at the time in Hertfordshire. There's me and my twin sister. I look so young.
Look at that.
Well, now let me guess. I think you're on the right, my right.
I agree. Yes.
I think you're on my right. That's
that
you.
one.
Yeah, that's you.
Yeah.
That's you?
Yeah. Oh no, that's my. Hang on.
Oh my God,
no, we're both wrong.
That's my sister Gemma.
Oh, okay. Wow. Maybe it's because you tilted us slightly away from the camera, and she's face on. I can just see. Wow, fooled.
Screenshot anyway. It's got
Please
torn places, but I've kept it.
Yeah.
And it's from. I can't really read much of it now because I haven't got my glasses on because I thought
honey,
so old.
Get in there.
I've got old eyes now. You see,
you're 2 years younger than me, so. If your eyes are old, what are mine? Just like barely hanging on,
barely hanging on.
And bone.
They're about to pop out. Well, only if
they're trying.
So, did they interview you for this? Did you get to talk to a reporter about your celebrity?
A guy from the local paper popped round our house for a cup of tea, and cup of tea and some biscuits.
And that's cookies. And that's cookies. Guys, everyone who's American is like, tea and biscuits. And I'm like, those are cookies, right?
Yeah. And then, it asked us about it. And then he went off on his merry way and wrote the article.
Now, were you still in, I don't know if you call it high school. Were you still in not college or / university, but what is it called? High school in the UK?
Secondary school.
Yeah.
What is it? Were you guys still? You were probably about to graduate, maybe.
Well, so at that time, when we're 16, we can then go off to college, which is not your college. It's a different type of thing that you can do for 2 years usually. Okay. And then university, you go when you're 18 if you want to go, and that is your college.
Okay. God, why we've really done it to ourselves in our effort to separate. We just cocked it all up. So I guess the reason why I'm asking is because I'm wondering if your classmates, it can always go one of two ways. Either that's so cool, or they're like ridiculously jealous of your success. And so I was just curious if there was any blowback from your
3,000
peers.
pounds that you made for 3 days of work.
I mean, look, people, again, on the one hand, it's some people are like, that's so cool. On the other hand, why aren't I getting any attention? We know how kids are.
Yeah.
Well, at the time, so I was in college, so that sort of institution between your school, I like high school and your college.
Oh my God,
And I was doing studies to do with dancing and acting at the same time. So in there, and all my friends there did it as well. So they weren't really particularly jealous or anything like that, because they were all doing their own things. Some of them had gigs, some of them were into music and had their own bands. So I was kind of mixing in those sort of circles anyway. So so sadly, not really much in the way of jealousy. I think a few of them were a little bit jealous that I did get to meet Hugh Grant.
There it is. There it is. Oh my God. Now this is 4 years after his scandal. Claire, do you remember the scandal that I'm referencing? It had to do with Elizabeth Hurley.
Completely out of it,
because you were, yes, of course you were, and like maybe the Daily Mail wasn't as robust as it is today, but they would have caught it for sure. So, short version.
Yeah, he got caught.
He cheated on her with a sex worker, getting the old beach job. And it's great to work. We love employed people. We want everyone to be employed. And that's, what is that but a job? So it's 4 years after that. I wonder if it's still on his mind. You probably didn't ask him, but for me, I gotta like. So was it brief? Was it glorious? Does he have soft hands?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't touch his hand. So I went. So it was the day of filming the actual scene, and I went into them. They went, go into the makeup trailer. So I went into this makeup trailer, and as I walked in, he was in there, and I was. Oh no! It was as I'd finished filming. They had the wig on, and I walked in there, and he was in there, and I was like, oh, because he was so famous by that point. And I was really young. And because in the trailer as well, when I'd had the wig on before, I was getting it put on, I could see there was a picture of Elizabeth Hurley on the wall.
I can't remember if they stayed together. I guess they did. I can't remember.
Yeah, for a while. Yep.
So anyway, I walked in and I was like, because he was just sitting there, and he was chatting away to the makeup lady, and I sat next to him, inches from the man, inches.
God.
Like,
there is something like about somebody that famous. I bet that was crazy. That is an out of body experience.
And he was all floppy hair and like.
They called him Floppy when he was younger. Did you not know this?
Yes,
that was his nickname growing up. Was Floppy.
So the movie says
from this movie.
Yeah.
And did you muster up the courage that I assume would have been required to even say hello? Because I personally might have just nothing would have.
I must have looked awful, sounded awful, because he was so lovely and he was really chatty. He went, hello. And oh, no, he did actually touch me, right? Not in an inappropriate way.
No. Yeah, that's different. That's a different podcast.
But he said, he went, hello, I'm Hugh. And
stop it. When famous people introduce themselves, it's like, shut up.
If I didn't know who he was. And I went, Claire, sounding slightly like a.
You were like, do you have a last name?
Hugh.
I should have tried to play it cool. Don't know who you are. Sorry, don't watch.
Don't know who you are. Wink, wink, wink.
How many weddings and how many funerals? I don't. Doesn't ring a bell. Yeah.
Now, did your sister? I mean, because she was cut, just because she was cut doesn't mean she. I obviously she didn't have to have any makeup because because she didn't have the wig. So, do you know if she got to talk to? I mean, it seems like you're coming home with all the good stories, and this poor sweet angel's getting on the cutting room floor. She's getting.
I know. Yeah, she didn't, because she didn't have. I went into the makeup trailer to
get the wig
taken off. and she didn't, so she didn't get to meet him. But he was really lovely, and he was really chatty, and I was like really starstruck, and I just sat there while he chatted to me for about 5 minutes, and I couldn't even tell you now what he said, because you know when you're like so starstruck and nothing's going in, and all you've got in your brain is, this is Hugh Grant, this is Hugh Grant, this is Hugh Grant, this is Hugh Grant.
This is the guy. This is the guy that cheats on Bridget Jones. This motherfucker. No.
Yeah.
With a stick insect? I don't think so.
And it was like 1998 Hugh Grant too, which is like the peak Hugh. I mean, it's hard to even imagine a bigger star at the moment.
Not especially I'm assuming in the UK, he's one of your finest.
Yeah.
One of your finest.
He's still going, and he's still doing really well. I think the last thing I watched him in was The Gentleman. He was really good in that. Did you see that?
Oh, have you seen Wonka? He plays the Oompa Loompa.
Oh, that's right. He has lots to say about that.
No,
he was also in the new Dungeons and Dragons movie, which I highly recommend. Incredibly entertaining.
Really?
There.
It's the best.
Yeah,
yep.
I would recommend The Gentleman that he's in.
Yeah,
that's really good, because it's got if you've not seen it, it's got Colin Firth in it and Jude Law in it, and
all of your greatest exports in one location.
Yeah, it's
great.
It's
God,
really
the handsomest British man. Okay, well, we've taken way too much of your time, and I feel really bad. I think we could talk to you for like hours and hours and hours.
That's fine. I could talk forever, but I don't think everyone wants to hear it.
Yes,
but I have your email address. If you want to come back and do an actual movie with us at some point and talk about a movie from '99, we'd love to have you.
I'm a movie person. I'll watch movies over anything else.
Okay, that's great.
I thought I was wearing a Jaws t-shirt today, but I'm not. I've got a Jaws t-shirt.
We'll pretend it's not a visual medium. You can just say you're wearing it, and nobody would ever know. Well, Claire, thanks so much. This is really, really fun, and yes, we'll have you back. We'll have you back sometime.
Yeah, it was lovely to meet you.
Claire, just lovely to meet you too. Thank you so much.
Fun. And our guest today is someone who lives at my house most of the time. She's not at my house right now. She's at her parents' house. But it is someone who I also share a last name with, because we are married and have been for quite some time. So starting RomCom season with us is my lovely wife, Courtney Brooks. Hello, Courtney.
Hello, John.
Hi, Courtney.
Hi, Jen Tisdale.
I'm so excited to meet you. I'm a fan of you from afar. I'm so excited to meet you. John, shut it down. You're done, John. It's just Courtney and I tonight.
Yeah, that's fine.
The gals.
Courtney, so we both watched the movie at different times because we have children and have a hard time finding times to watch things together, which is one of the delights of parenthood. But we have avoided talking about the movie together. So how'd you feel revisiting Notting Hill 25 years hence?
So when I watched it 25 years ago, as a 7-year-old, it was like...
Wait, ouch. I was like, no, Courtney, I can't. Not today. Not when I'm about to be so aged.
Joey and I aren't the same age. No. I was just out of college, and I was pretty still schmoopy about Hugh Grant. I did remember liking The Friends a bunch, even then. But I think at that point in my life, wanting to find that love, and my love of romantic comedies is huge. I love them forever and ever, and it might be my favorite genre of film. But this time I wasn't as enamored with the leads. I was so much more in love with the ancillary characters.
The friend group.
Yeah. Yes. I think I put my story on Hugh and Julia more than, you know what I mean? Like, because they were a little more sort of stock to me this time. So I enjoyed it very much. And it was like a salve, like it was like to my soul. I want things to be simple and lovely. It is probably no coincidence that my background show is now Brady Bunch, because it is earnest and it is predictable. Yeah. And so in the same way, Notting Hill felt like I knew it was going to happen. I didn't care. I wanted them to tell me this. I wanted it to be in funny Richard Curtis ways. But when I watched it in '99, it was all about the
love.
romance,
Yeah.
and also just I hadn't been to London. I hadn't met my future English husband, so it was all kind of romantic in that way too, like London,
Yeah.
and yeah.
And you
Yeah.
That's how I
you
felt.
hadn't walked down. You guys have both seen Bedknobs and Broomsticks, right? I mean, it's one of my favorites. So literally, any mention of Portobello Road, I was like, oh, someone's gonna start singing. It's this gal right here. I think it's so interesting that you say that. You loved the rom, and now you're more of the com.
Yeah.
But for me, one thing that I couldn't get enough of, and it might be because I'm a little bit friendship starved, is those group of people. In most movies, when you're supposed to believe that people have been friends for many, many years, I often find it difficult to believe that. And I know these people already knew each other, but this, more than any other
Oh,
like movie or show, did I truly believe that these people are very good friends, that they love each other deeply. I loved watching them. I could just
you
watch
know,
them the whole time.
this may be him doing it the best, but he does it really well in Four Weddings and a Funeral and in Love
Yeah.
Actually, where people are in scenes together for 90 seconds and you know that they've known each other their whole
Yeah.
lives. Like when Emma Thompson runs into Hugh Grant at the play in Love Actually, they're brother and sister
Yes.
from everything that's written, from every way they act it. So he does it so well, and maybe the best I've ever seen it. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
That's yeah. And why is it so difficult to make friends?
I I want a Richard Curtis movie that's just the friends, but I don't think it would work. 'Cause I think you need you need the plot that grounds the friends story, which
Why
is
don't we
like
just do
the
a
weird,
big chill, but
double-edged.
better with a
Yeah,
big chill, but
but with
better?
Richard Curtis.
Yeah.
Right,
Right.
which is kind of what Love Actually is, but it's also with Christmas and love stories. So, but yeah, he
I
is
think,
he's great
You
at that.
can't do that scene where they're doing the saddest when they get to have that last brownie
oh my God.
unless they're deeply connected people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's such a vulnerable yet funny moment. You
yeah.
can't do the
Yeah.
last brownie scene
Now,
without them being
if you
yeah.
guys had to
I
pick a
know.
winner of that scene, who would you have picked who had the saddest life, do you think?
Oh, who did have the saddest?
I think
I
I
can't
think
remember what the
Hugh
stories
did Hugh
were.
Grant end up taking the brownie? Because I did not think he had the saddest life. And I don't want to sound like a jerk, but Cutie Pie, who was recently has a disability and can't get pregnant, honey, give her the whole tray. Although she's happily in love, so it depends on your priority.
Yeah, that moment stopped me in the tracks when she said that, and I had forgotten about that moment. And then I'm like, how does she not have it?
Yeah, everybody leave,
Yeah,
get out of the house,
yeah.
leave her with the tray and the wine.
It's again where we put the story on to Hugh Grant, and like he deserves it because he's
Sad and
romantically,
divorced,
yeah, maybe.
But I
honey.
feel like
It's every
this is something they do a lot, and it just sort of seems like, don't you know these stories already? It's like, do they have to keep doing this every week? Like, how often do they do this whole like the saddest story wins the brownie thing? It seems regular, but once it's like, do they just have to have tragedies happen to them every month? I don't understand exactly how the game works.
Oh, I thought I got under the impression that was the first time they had done that. Did you think that was a regular occurrence, the sad
It just
off?
seems like there's rules, and like everybody seems like very. I don't know. It seems like
I
it's
thought they'd
a
just come up with it on the
custom
spot,
among
like
their
saddest
people.
person gets the
Maybe,
brownie.
I don't know. I don't know, but it seemed
That's
they
how
were
I
But
felt.
very
definitely
particular about
they've
the
done
culture.
versions of something like this.
Yeah. And it's a good it's a nice little like moment, because it does, again, it's the sort of thing that like close friends do. It's like that kind of ritual, and without explaining it too much, right? It sort of gives you enough insight into their relationship without hitting you over the head with it, which I thought was really great.
I do think, just to keep talking about the friendship, it's unclear if I will ever reach the rom of this. I'm stuck in this is a platonic com for me, and I don't care about the romance. But the thing that
Yeah.
I also was deeply and weirdly touched by was when Hugh Grant, as an adult man, spends the night at his friend's house, and to just something about that, I was like,
Yeah.
yes, I mean, is he supposed to be? I can't remember. They're in their 30s, I think, probably in this movie. But just to have that
Yes.
house that
Yeah.
you're, as an
He was
adult, you're
38.
still okay. God, he looks great. To still have that happening at that age. I've only had 1 or 2 times in my life where I've had friendships like that. And I don't, guys, I don't know if I'm trying to get a brownie right now, but I just don't have that right now.
Oh, we don't either.
And I found myself missing it.
Yeah.
So much. I was just like, and I love my person and I have friends, but I don't have those friends. And I was like, I was feeling heartbroken about that more than anything else.
Making friends and keeping friends
okay.
as an adult. Like these guys have known each other for nearly 20 years at the point that this movie starts, because they called him Flopsy because they've known him since he was like 14 years old, right? Me too. And the friendships that I have that are that long, I could be, if I'm in the space with them, it exists immediately, but I'm hardly ever in the space with them in it. So that was the heartache. Yeah, I felt the same way. I was same, and making friends as an adult sucks. But this isn't, for me, this isn't the story. These are very lucky people who kept their circle together through a bunch of life moments, because now they're in the mid-30s. But I used to, in New York, liberally stay at friends' houses when we'd go out.
Sure.
I did more of that than leaving a date's house. And like my walk of shame was like a walk of like friendship home thing. I didn't, it was the best.
Yeah. You're like, you borrow your friend's PJs. I mean, Hugh Grant's different. You probably, this happens, I think, more with the gals than the guys. You're going to probably sleep in the same bed with your friend. Who cares? You guys wake up together and you're just like giggling little weirdos. And this can happen, I'm going to say, at any age.
Yeah. And your friend makes sure that like you at least wipe your mascara out from underneath your eyes when you go get coffee. And then you go and
brush
then
your teeth.
Go your separate ways after a cup of coffee. Yeah.
That's right.
The best.
We're gonna talk. We're gonna talk more about the the kind of moment in timeness of this in a bit as well. But I actually really did like the rom quite a bit. But like, I gravitated more towards the com this time. So I hadn't really seen it, I don't think, since it came out. I remember it very fondly, and I remember it being like a very good movie. I don't remember it being this funny, and maybe it wasn't as funny to me when I watched it the first time. So I'm going to talk about this period of Hugh Grant, which to me is like the ultimate Hugh Grant period. But also like Hugh Grant's like real comic timing is such like people don't talk enough about how great his comic timing is. And especially when he does that, like I was saying this to Courtney earlier, the scene where the whole fucking like horse and hound scene is just like kills me every time. I laugh out loud. It's so uncomfortable and so hilarious. But the bit where he does that Hugh Grant thing where the receptionist is like asking him what magazine he's from, and he does this, he goes, eh. And it's like, as he like looks around for something to say, and it's that little noise that's like just the Hugh Grant noise, and it's like perfectly timed, and it's so wonderful. And the other one that I just like, I died, and I think because I know who Hugh Bonneville is more now, and to me he's Downton Abbey.
Yes,
and I've always like I've seen him do comedy, and he's a great comic actor.
It took me a second to realize
he's a great comic actor, and I've seen him do a lot of comedy, but like I don't. Going back and appreciating his comedy in this time, and especially the scene where he's like, so how much did they pay you for that one? And she's like, $19 million. And he goes, well, that's quite a lot, isn't it?
Yes. Mm-hmm. That's fun fact. That's actually how much she made for Notting Hill.
I imagined that was like the joke.
It was.
I think that was
a meta joke. Yeah.
I'm trying to think when she got to when it was the first movie that was the $20 million movie, and I can't imagine it was Notting Hill, but I knew by that point she was the part of the 20 million club or thereabouts.
It might have been.
I
remember she made a shitload for the Pelican Brief, but like so that might have been around the time.
That wasn't 1999 by any chance, was it?
No, that was like 94.
What a shame.
Her other 99 movie is the Pelican. I'm not Pelican. You just
Runaway Bride.
Runaway Bride. Mm-hmm.
That's our next one.
Next time. Yeah, I mean, The Horse and the Hound. It's so that bit is. I mean, and to revisit it, to bring it back one more time in the movie, but.
Yes.
And then to do that thing, because, they say in comedy, you take writing a joke. Okay, I'm so sorry I'm talking like this. I'm embarrassed, but that's fine. When I used to do stand up for 10 minutes and I wouldn't even call myself a comic, you come up with the first layer of the joke, and then you got to keep going and keep going and keep going. And that's like how you write a joke. So the first layer is, of course, he's not really writing for Horse and Hound. And then the Julia Roberts conversation and a lesser comic, a not as funny person would end it there. But no, having him get pulled in to several other interviews as the writer for Horse and Hound, and the conversation about horses in space, I couldn't breathe. I was like,
and the best thing about that whole sequence, like comically, is that he doesn't get any better at it, but he gets more confident at it. And it's like, so by the last interview, he's like having a good
that's
time,
writing.
but he's not good.
Beautiful
he's just
thing
more
about
comfortable.
Beautiful thing about what Richard Curtis does with Hugh Grant is he's this sort of smart, typical Englishman, and he keeps shoving him into more and more and more uncomfortable circumstances. He does. That's what like put him against the wall, like make him fight it, figure out his way out of this, but also in the most English way. Do you know what I mean? He's not spilling stuff. He's not. There's nothing. Like it's very specifically English, the way he's pushed up against the wall and getting out of it. And it's super uncomfortable. And it's funny because Richard Curtis does that to him. He does it to him in Love Actually. He does it to him, I think, a couple of times in Four Weddings. But now he's not the typical Englishman. And now that he's in his 60s and he's doing an Oompa Loompa and he's doing that. He was so good in Paddington 2.
Oh, everyone talks about Paddington 2. I'm afraid to watch it because I know I'm going to cry, but I know I should because people are obsessed with those movies and I know I should do it. I'm just trying to ready myself.
They're really good.
But it is,
I think
he's almost a straight man, and that's harder to do than the more fool clownish, thing. It's
because before he was playing
so
an exceptionally handsome young person who was like in uncomfortable circumstances, and that's very funny in its own way. And now he's just like, this old, not as attractive, but still attractive in his own way. But like the the youthfulness that used to be the source of his comedy is gone, and it's been replaced by this like weird. He's getting like comedic mileage out of his like aristocratic appeal, right? That it's great. It's like the same basic comedy, but he's learned how to sort of like realign it to his demeanor now, which I think is, again, like I don't think Hugh Grant gets anywhere near enough conversation about how great a comic actor he is, because he is a great actor, and he is also like, he was a sex symbol in the 1990s, and that was sort of his. He was
in this movie. You can tell by how many buttons he doesn't button.
Yes, yeah. Like I think
you got to see those tiny nipples.
I think one of my I think my favorite Hugh Grant movies.
Everyone's going to Google image them, and they're going to.
My favorite is about a boy, and I think he should have gotten an Oscar nomination for that movie because he is absolutely brilliant in that movie, and like it's a fantastic performance, and it's everything that makes Hugh Grant great. But this is pretty close as well.
With little Nicholas Hoult, did we talk about this last time, John, or did we talk about it when we were done recording? How we can't believe that's Nicholas Hoult.
I think it was off mic.
About a Boy also allowed him to walk over the bridge to Curmudgeon, because now he's like,
yes, right.
He's free to hate everything, and he does. Every interview, he's like, no,
it's great.
Oh, he doesn't. Well, speaking of interviews, I watched one, but he wasn't necessarily talking about Notting Hill directly, but what he did say was before he was. People were writing for him, and it wasn't him that he was playing. He was playing this nice, sweet Englishman. And he said, and then Bridget Jones came along, and he said, and Daniel Cleaver is me. I'm actually Daniel Cleaver. And that was it. Cleaver? I think it was Daniel Cleaver. And he's like, and that was the first time someone had written a role for him, about that boy. And I was like, this is thrilling news. So I found that very interesting, that that means he's an incredible actor, because I thought watching Bridget Jones, I'm like, look what they're making him do. That's not the Hugh Grant I know. Well, apparently it wasn't the Hugh Grant anyone knew, because that's the real Hugh Grant, according to Hugh Grant.
Yeah, Richard Curtis writes Richard Curtis's alter ego, Hugh Grant, and Hugh Grant's really good at playing it, but it's Richard Curtis. It's not Hugh Grant, right? That's like that's the difference. I also, getting back to the part of it, we were both talking about sort of the way that the Horse and Hound joke keeps coming back. And I think one of the things that is one of Richard Curtis's gift, and this goes back to like Blackadder, right? This has been a thing in his writing for a long time, is he knows when a joke can keep on going, and he's really good at like picking out the jokes that are like, this is still going to be funny in like an hour, so we're going to come back to this one. There's a ton of that in Four Weddings, there's a ton of that in this, there's a ton of that in Love Actually, where it's like those jokes that were funny are going to be lasting jokes that you can pull back out of the box and play towards the end of the movie. So the way that the horse and hound thing, which is just like, yeah, that didn't stop being funny in that scene. It could, like, the whole concept of it is just genius, and you can keep pulling from it. And not a lot
every
of
second
comic
of it,
writers
the
know
flowers,
how to do it. Yeah,
all of it.
Yeah, a lot of comedy writers overplay their hand, and he is really good at understanding what he has in his hand. So
in the beginning, he used the music, Elvis Costello. They used the same music at the end. At first, didn't love it. It felt very voyeuristic, but without doing that, the payoff at the end when they bring that back and now they're together and they're on the park bench and she's pregnant. So if I was going to get schmoopy about anything, it is that he built to that payoff at the end with bringing back the Elvis Costello song and having them all over Notting Hill.
Well, the music thing. Okay, so I don't know who supervised the music for this, but also Richard Curtis loves himself a good soundtrack, and I think the criticism that I read in the intro from the critics who said, "My God, ease up on the soundtrack with this movie."
Little
I
heavy-handed,
agree.
they all felt.
Trevor Jones, his score is fantastic. I love Trevor Jones. I think it's a really, really good score. It's like perfect kind of Richard Curtis-y score. But the use of the songs, the overuse of songs to set mood, it did bug me at certain points too. I like the bookend of Elvis Costello. I love Elvis Costello in general. But yeah, man, there are times when it is super heavy-handed, and I'm like, I don't need this song to tell me what's happening right now. And but then you get to Love Actually, and the music is basically immaculate, and like the way that it all is woven into the storyline is really fantastic. So I know it's like a thing that he likes to do. Obviously, he's a big fan of pop music and wants to infuse it in his movie, but like it does breach, like it's one of the things that I think keeps this movie from like sheer perfection, is that the soundtrack gets in the way sometimes.
No, I don't mind if I know the complaint with, I cannot recall which reviewer said that we don't need the music to spell out what's happening in the scene, and that's fine. But I didn't, and I usually do pick up on lyrics, but I felt I didn't feel hit over the head with it the way that poor reviewer was like, this is too much for me, and I was like, you know what? Ain't no sunshine. It's London.
Listen, a few years after this movie was made, I was walking around New York City, setting my mood to whatever was I was very heavy-handed with my own life soundtrack.
Sure.
So giving me How Do You Mend a Broken Heart by Al Green?
Yeah.
Forget about it. I don't care. Give me more. I don't. Doesn't set a mood for me.
Oh no, I'd be in favor of passing a law to include that song in every movie. That would be fine with me. It's actually, and it's not the selection of the songs. It's just sometimes it just like it goes on too long. Like, it's not a music video. Let's get back to the act.
it can't be just mostly music. That is bad. I do want to. I know we're jumping all over the place, but I do want to hold space.
Okay,
I want to hold space for his
nipples.
Ridiculous assistant at the travel bookshop.
Oh, I love him.
Sweet man.
I love that character too.
Sweet, befuddled man. This and honestly, another thing I connected with, and I don't work in an office anymore, but boy, oh boy, do I remember getting up and getting coffee even when I didn't want it, simply to do something at work. And when they run out and get a cappuccino, just slam it down, which, by the way, my intestines went, ooh, okay, yikes. I guess none of us have hit 40 yet. And then they're like, should we get another? And I was like, where are they putting that? Yeah. But honestly, the boredom office coffee run, I know I'm picking up on why am I picking up on these things? No rom for me, no com from just this. I love it. I love that guy, that sweet, misled, adorable man. And then the guy who, God, John, you're going to know who it is. And Courtney, you might too. I obviously immediately recognize the shoplifter.
Dylan Moran.
Was it Shaun of the Dead? He was in
He was
Shaun
in
of the
Shaun of
Dead.
the Dead. He was in Black Books and
Yeah.
Shaun of the Dead. Yeah. Dylan Moran. He's amazing.
Okay,
Fantastic,
thank you so much.
fantastic
I
stand-up
mean,
comic. I
just
love him. Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
And you know what's strange about this movie? Julia Roberts, her character couldn't be more two-dimensional. Couldn't be less of just a prop, just an like, I don't want to be like, I don't know if we want to get too much insight. I'm not saying, you know, she's and monstrous in a way. The only time she's emotive is when she's an asshole. Truly.
Yes.
Uh, and other than that, she's just sort of there for everyone to project upon, which is fine. But you don't get, other than the movie star aspect, why anyone loves her.
Yeah. But I think that's also kind of the point, is that she is that's kind of part of the weird commentary of this movie, that like, you know what I mean? It's almost like a meta commentary that she is something that you're projecting whatever you want onto. And you're never really quite sure where she's coming from and how she feels. And I think that's like kind of interesting. It bucks the trend, I think, of the rom-com and like her roles. And I think it's sort of
because it reverses the role.
Like if she were playing a typical Julia Roberts character, like it wouldn't work. You know what I mean? And it would sort of ruin the whole mystique of the movie. And so yeah, I found that interesting too. Like I was kind of baffled by like why he likes her sometimes, or if she likes him. But then I'm also sort of like, well, also like being a movie star is really fucked up, and she's like kind of been really fucked up, and she sort of alludes to that throughout the movie, that she's been on a diet since she was 9 or whatever it is, right? And so like I think that makes sense, that she's sort of hurt, and this is where she starts to feel like she has comfort and friends and can be seen as a real person. Even when being seen as a real person is like the friends start like screaming as soon as she leaves because they just hung out with a celebrity.
That's,
you know, like
10 out of 10. That's what I would do with my friends. The second that door closed, I'd be like, holy shit.
Oh my God.
That was crazy. I wouldn't even wait. Yeah, right at the door. Don't care.
So this is like my 17th favorite Julia Roberts role, because I don't know what it is. It's like probably 5 or something, but it's not up there. However, no one else could play the role. So like it might not be my favorite, but just her face, like in that moment.
Yeah.
She's still gorgeous, etc. And of course I love where she gets to play more like her own personality, which has a lot more chutzpah to her. But I do think the role reversal of what we typically see as the man in it, they are usually pretty two-dimensional, but you have to give them moments where the friends will root for getting with this person.
Yeah.
Right? Like if there are ancillary characters. So for example, the dinner where, you know, she kind of puts up with the sister, and she participates and gets very vulnerable, probably for her, in the dinner scene with the sad moment. And even at the beginning, when we know she's a star, but she's not really acting like a star in the bookshop, she kind of from circumstances, she just wants a normal moment with someone. She's hiding out. She doesn't want the paparazzi. And then she meets this pretty charming, bumbling, guy. So it's not my favorite Julia Roberts character, but no one else could play it. And we don't typically get to see the object of the affection be the woman. So, and it works because she's a star, right? Like, so she's even remote to us, which is, I think, the point.
I do. We can spend a moment on the sister, because what an incredible performance.
Before we do, like, so also she died recently, which is tragic. But her and director Roger Mitchell, they both died in the last few years, which really sucks. But like her as well. So like in addition to the friends, and we'll talk about her in a second, but I just want to say that like the other thing that I just love about Richard Curtis as a writer and as a comedy writer is that, as you were saying with like his coworker, which is a great character, and like you get everything about him, and like the ways he confuses celebrities, and like all that sort of thing. Like and the Dylan Moran, it's one scene and it's like so memorable, and you know exactly what that character's like. And then the guy who keeps showing up in the bookstore and being
asking
like
for the non-travel books.
Right, and the sister, and just like these characters that like a lesser comedy writer would just write as like throwaway quirky jokes, like you get who they are, like with very little you get all these backstories of these characters, and it's really, really wonderful. And like, yes, Richard Curtis has this amazing ability to write. And I guess like, because look, he and Rowan Atkinson like made each other's careers, right? Like Curtis created Mr. Bean with Rowan Atkinson. He did Blackadder. Rowan Atkinson is obviously like a manically insane actor and and comic, but like, you know, that's who he's been writing for all this time. So being able to write quirky but with like real depth is a real skill that Richard Curtis, I think, is just, you know, we can talk about his romantic comedies all we want, but like his ability to write those kinds of characters is just like second to none.
Well, I also think that that's why it's acceptable it was 2 hours.
Oh, I didn't even feel it.
Oh, the original cut was 3.5.
I'll take it.
3.5 hour movie, and we now know some of the stuff that was cut because Claire told us, like including her whole family.
We've got at least 5 or 10 minutes that we've of missing footage. Thank you to Claire.
No, okay, I'm glad you said that, Courtney, because like this is the kind of movie that feels longer than 2 hours in all the right ways. Like I just want to be there with them for forever. Yeah. It's like, again, I've talked to you about this, Jen, with Singles. It's the same thing. I just want to like hang out in that movie forever and just never leave because it's so wonderful. It's
the friendships. I'm telling you. Yes, the rom is good, but I just want to be at that. And like, guys, I haven't even mentioned Emily.
I miss having friends, is what I'm saying.
I do miss having those sorts of friends. And you know, in a second, if we want to just briefly say, Emily Mortimer, you're the best everything you do and all things you do. We're sorry we don't know what happened there. He probably didn't even tell you.
It's a separate rom-com that never happened.
I did read in part of my little research that Richard Curtis, to no one's surprise, everyone describes him as a hopeless romantic. He is a hopeless romantic.
What?
And it shouldn't surprise.
Now I got to change my entire perception of.
Well, I mean, like you know, that's you know, some people are good at doing writing about something, but that doesn't necessarily mean they are that thing. But everyone is just like really shouting out this man's romantic side, which I love because I'm like, boy, can that love really destroy comedy sometimes. And he didn't let it. He said, I got this nice, sweet balance for you guys. And I appreciate, and also I'll admit, as I said several times to poor Claire, that I'm an Anglophile and I couldn't shut up about her accent, whatever. So part of me is like, this is also that special British humor, that special British, everybody delivers everything perfectly. Even the worst British comic actor in their country is still going to be the funniest for me. At least I'll maybe not Benny Hill.
Okay, that's where you draw the line, is Benny Hill.
Yeah.
All right.
And when you said Rowan Atkinson, I would be remiss in just not taking a sidebar for a second to point out my person's a big James Acaster fan. And James Acaster is a British comic.
Yep.
And famously, his girlfriend was stolen by Rowan Atkinson. I believe they're still together to this day. My person told me all about this. I am now also a fan of James Acaster, not nearly as much as he is. He actually loves British programming. He watches a lot of their stuff.
Yeah.
But we watched it's in one of his specials. He tells the whole story of Rowan Atkinson. Like it's
I think I've seen that, and I've completely forgotten about it because I like blocked it out of my head.
Anytime anyone mentions Mr. Bean, I think, oh, James Acaster. Who's in the next Ghostbusters movie. Anyway, moving right along.
Can't wait.
So yeah, the Britishness of it also is something I can't separate. Like I can't tell if I also love it because of that, of their specific flavor of humor that speaks to me.
It's quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's
dry.
Yeah. It's so some of my other favorites aren't English romantic comedies. His Girl Friday is my absolute favorite. Philadelphia Story, When Harry Met Sally. I actually did my final project for film class in college about Battle of the Sexes, and has it changed from like the 40s to the 90s. So I'm very interested in that. But it's very vaudevillian. You know, it's typically American, those movies. This is not. Even the speech that Julia Roberts gives, she's an American, but it's interrupted like 4 times, and it's pretty low key in terms of energy, and so still powerful. Like I think about, the speech that Tom Cruise gives in Jerry Maguire, right? Very different in what she delivers here, but yet they're still as quoted, right? It's still as monumental a moment and remarkable. So I have right in my notes, he does rom-coms in the most English way possible.
Yeah. I thought about when she gets irrationally, in my opinion, angry at him about the paparazzi thing. And I was watching Hugh Grant, and my first thought was, what is this? And I know British people emote. I'm not a crazy person, but we, stereotypically are just like, they're so, I don't know, John, you tell us, but they're slightly more reserved. So I'm watching him be on the receiving end of this manic packing and angry diatribe, and he's still, nothing changes. And I was like, yeah, very surprised though that he wasn't thoroughly, I guess he was thoroughly freaked out by that, but I felt it like, I likened it to, if you're someone in a true manic episode and someone with you is not in a manic episode, and it couldn't be, the experiences couldn't be less different. And I was just watching him be this hurricane ripping through this very stately British man. He's probably never seen such a thing. That's probably the first time he's seen. I mean, I bet even their divorce was like posh and proper, whatever that was with his wife. I bet she just quietly packed up a suitcase and left. Whereas Julia, you're gonna know.
Yeah, and it's weird in some way that the divorce doesn't. I kept forgetting about it. It's a very weird sort of, like, what was the point of him being divorced exactly? Like, I don't know what the character.
So he could get the brownie.
Maybe in the 3.5 hour version, it plays more into the plot, but like it didn't present.
Do you think
any...
there's a director's cut? I'd like to see a director's cut.
I feel like it's it makes, because he's been blue about romance for a long time.
Yeah,
he probably even in 1999 couldn't afford that flat unless he had been a married 2-income. You know what I mean? Like I think there are things to make the divorce.
Oh, it's like why he's
necessary.
Living with Spike. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I wished it would have been fleshed out more.
Why is he in his mid-30s without having been married before? And he's, charming and whatever.
That's true.
Who's your favorite friend?
I mean, mine's Hugh Bonneville. I love that character, and I think he's fucking hysterically funny.
Downton
Abbey. Hugh Bonneville.
That's Downton.
Yeah. I love that he's like a self-aware loser, that he doesn't know what he does, and that he gets fired, and he's like, yeah, that makes sense. I should have gotten fired. I'm not very good at my job. I don't know. All the comedy beats with that character, I think, are great.
He also has a Subaru station wagon.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So he's.
I know.
So he likes to camp.
Yeah, I know that's
nobody camps in England. It's not a
Hugh
thing.
Does.
For the most hijinks moment of the chasing around and
sure,
it was the most. Yes.
Yeah, I mean that's as American as that comedy got there, but you had to have someone who had a car that could fit 8 people and a wheelchair. So it was Hugh Bonneville, the single dude with a station wagon.
Yes.
Well, now I have a question for you two. Something I thought I kept clocking is Hugh Bonneville's character not so secretly in love with Hugh Grant's sister?
Yes, 100%.
Thank you very much. I couldn't figure out why we weren't making that happen. Would it be too obvious? Because obviously she ends up with Spike.
I was very sad for him. There's a moment like
when she announces the engagement.
Yes, and he buys her
crestfallen.
Even at her birthday party, he buys her the hat, and then she says, "I love you," and he's like very yeah. Oh my God! Listen, he doesn't look like this now. But in that moment, that very perfect moment, I have such a soft spot for adults that look exactly like they did at 5. Yes. When you look at someone and you're like, I know what you look like at 5.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was just, cheeks were still just round enough. And and because he's a great actor, he was vulnerable in all those moments. Because he should have gotten the brownie, frankly. At the end, he should get the brownie. For sure.
If they redid the brownie scene, they should have. Would have been too heavy-handed maybe to do the brownie scene one more time.
Just slip him one.
Yeah,
you can have it this time.
So yeah,
he's also my very favorite. Although Bernie,
me too.
Bernie, he's like, that's a really well written character.
Yeah, for sure.
He is like. That one, he's my second favorite in terms of how it's written and how it's performed.
Yeah.
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 Although, you know what? You know what I wonder now that I'm thinking about, sorry to go back to Hugh Grant's divorce. The scene where we're also told that he and I don't want to keep saying the woman in the wheelchair because that's awful. Can someone remind me of her character's name? Does anyone remember? Is it? I'm sorry.
Oh, geez. Hold
I
on. Bella.
Gosh, I'm so sorry. Well, you know who? Thank you. It is revealed that Hugh Grant, that they were in a relationship at some point, and she then fell in love with his friend. But it seems as if he was very much in love with her.
I don't think they were in a
Is
relationship.
that they were just, it never ever happened.
Because
he pined for her and
Yes,
she was with his
correct.
friend. Now here's what I'm wondering. Did that break up his marriage? Because maybe what was going on was like the wife could sense that he was not fully over his very, very best friend.
Oh.
And perhaps that's what ended the marriage. Otherwise, it's just it's not a strange thing to mention to us, but it is an interesting thing to just drop upon us in this motion picture that these two
And
people,
again,
that he
I bet the
was in love
3.5
with
hour
her.
version will tell us that.
We're getting all of it.
Release the Curtis cut.
I want their whole friendship
But
start
even
with
the moment of her reacting to that, which was, "Ugh, like I can't, I wouldn't," like when she was like, "Never ever," when she was in her, like it was so.
And then when she vomited into her, I was like, "Wow, this is crazy." No, I'm kidding.
So
And
Hugh
then right after
Bonneville, Hugh Bonneville's Bernie, and then
Thank you so
much.
the bald guy is Max. That's the
Okay,
one.
Max. Yeah.
Yes, he's an unsung hero, I think.
Great.
Not
Yes.
just being quietly funny.
Yes.
Just everyone's reaction to Anna first coming in is
Yeah.
a real treat. Because I was trying to put myself in their position. I was trying to imagine what I would do with my face and my body if Julia Roberts herself, for all intents and purposes, walked into my, I assume probably weekly or monthly dinner with my friends. What would I even do? And I think I would here's what I think I would act like, unfortunately, the sister, for sure. I would follow her right into the bathroom as she's unbuttoning her pants. No boundaries,
Oh my
no chill, no cool. That would I know that would be me. I'd be like, I'm going to make her my best friend. But I know it. I know that would be me.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Julia, if you're listening, I'm available. I think.
So I like this game because
for friendship,
I try to do the Rolodex of things we have in common that I'm going to, when she's getting a drink, I'm going to get a drink, and or I'm going to go put a certain song on that I know is, her favorite band or something. Be like, oh, you like this too?
That's
I did that. I know. I did that with a boy in college where I knew he and I liked the same music, and I kept the CD in my car just in case he ever needed a ride somewhere. And then I put it in. Yeah. He was like, oh my God, I love this. I'm like, you do?
That's so crazy. This silly little band, and it's the Beatles.
But it was actually Chris Isaac, I think. But anyway, the point is that I would try to be like chill and be like, oh, we have so much in common. That's so weird.
I have a niece named Emma. What?
She never did that with me, by the way.
I too married a cameraman. I didn't though.
John, who would you be if Julia Roberts walked into your friend's monthly, weekly, whatever it is,
Courtney will back this up. Like
wait, don't say it. Courtney, can you want to guess? This is like Newlyweds Game style. Courtney, can you guess who John would be? And then John, you can confirm or deny. We're having a great time. Let's test your marriage.
Okay, listen. Okay. He wouldn't be quite the sister. But he has zero problem telling someone who he's a fan of, like if we were to run into them, that like, you're amazing and this is what has, like running into Joe Castiglione.
Yeah.
He was like, you are my childhood. You were the voice of my childhood, so he will take his loving adoration and make sure it. It was meaningful. So not quite in the sister way, but he would not try to be chill necessarily.
Okay.
He wouldn't be.
I would be somewhere like between that and Bernie, where there's also a version of me that has absolutely no idea that I'm talking to a celebrity and just doesn't click for a very long time, and so just says incredibly inappropriate things and whatever. And then as soon as it clicks, I'd be like, "Oh, fuck, you're awesome!" Like, yeah, you're the best. But yes, there is definitely like a hybrid version of me to make out of the people in that party for sure, and how I would respond. I mean, I've told you this story before, but like I literally like spoke to Drew Barrymore for a long time and didn't know it was her. So, you know, I've like had that conversation. I've had that experience in the past. It is like
you have to give your baby Gen X card up now.
Oh boy. Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned Drew Barrymore, because I also watched an interview with when Hugh Grant Zoomed, Skyped, whatever, into her show, because they did music and lyrics by together, and she told this really wacky story about they both kept mentioning how much real chemistry they had, and I said, well, it's happening in this interview. I don't know if he's single. I was like, I actually know nothing about Hugh Grant's personal life, because I kept looking at his hand for a ring, and I know Drew Barrymore's single.
Oh, I'll tell you about it in a second, but continue your story.
I'm excited. So after they had made the movie, they ran into each other at another point, and this was when Drew Barrymore was drinking, and I guess they went to say hi to each other, and she just planted a big old makeout kiss on him and just grabbed him and was like, kiss, 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 kiss. And by the way, he in this interview also talked about, Drew Barrymore was like, do you remember how we met? And it was when she wrote him a letter during the sex worker scandal. And he goes, well, I was really had a moment. I think he named the woman Divine Brown, he said. I went, oh my God, Greg, this is fantastic. And you wrote me a very nice letter about it. And I was like, God, my kingdom for that letter. Where is it? So anyway, I thought that was quite amusing. The word chemistry was just tossed out. Higgledy-piggledy. But yes, tell me about Hugh Grant's personal life, because I didn't Google and I am curious.
Okay. So Hugh Grant was with Elizabeth. What's her last name?
Hurley.
I do know all about that stuff.
Right. But like for a long time and with 0 children, they were such an English 90s it couple. I mean, rivaling Posh and Bex. Like really famous. Then the Divine Brown thing happened, kind of crashed and burned. But so he's kind of, he was kind of a cad, became a father at 51.
Stop it.
And now has 5 children.
You better not.
I'm telling you, this is the most fascinating thing, which is why he plays an Oompa Loompa. He's got 5 college tuitions and boarding schools to pay for. But listen, it gets more fascinating. His wife, and John, maybe you want to look up her name, because I don't want to just say his wife, but he's married to a woman who is the mom of his 2nd, 4th, and 5th children, because he was dating a couple of women at the same time. Though he was getting pretty serious about his current wife, but also had gotten another woman pregnant, who's also an awesome, like very successful in her own right woman. Mm-hmm. So he has children that are within like 9-ish months of each other, because
all these Irish twins milling about,
and then had a 2nd kid with the first lady. So he has like 1 and 3 are from the first lady, and 2, 4, and 5 are with his wife. He has 5 children.
He is he's better be careful. He's gonna get into Nick Cannon territory if he's not careful.
No, he's too old for that now. But her name is Anna Eberstein, and they've been married since 2018. So, and they have 3 children together.
This is
the kids are pretty like, they're probably 5 kids in like 7 years. I want to say something.
Yeah.
Oh, he's in his 60s. So is the oldest one like not even a teenager yet?
No, yeah, like 10 or 11. Yeah.
Wow.
Also, Courtney, he lives in England and he has millions of dollars, so he wouldn't have to worry about college tuition anyway because he lives in England. But also, he plays an Oompa Loompa because he wants to, and like he's into weird shit now.
But like the boarding schools, and
even so, he made a good.
He was really funny about the Oompa Loompa and all of his.
The oldest is 12.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Which means the second oldest is almost 12.
And obviously nobody quite minded the fact that he had been with another woman because maybe their other
Yeah.
relationship with the first woman wasn't quite solidified.
Correct. That's
Yeah.
how what
So
I'm
everybody's
sensing
good.
through this. Everyone's pretty good. They are a big, happy family. But for someone who grew up with Hugh Grant being a sort of cad that, like, had a
Yeah.
lovely woman on his arm and was,
Mhm.
funny and witty, but not necessarily very deep in committing to things and stuff. That now
Daniel Cleaver, like he
he
said,
went right. He
he's
went
Daniel
from
Cleaver.
0 to 60 with the fatherhood thing. Now
Yeah.
he has. Listen, I had twins 5 weeks before I turned 40.
Oh my
This
God.
man has 5 children
Wow.
at the age of 61 who are between like
They've got
5 and 12.
nannies out
I'm
the
sure it's still
wazoo.
exhausting. I mean,
Yeah. Yes. And he's doing press. Well, the Drew Barrymore thing was a couple of years old, I think. It was, but literally 2
Mhm.
years. So there's two wives or whatever.
yeah.
We're we're like chemistry.
Can
Should
I
we
my
get another one?
my favorite part of this exchange so far in this whole recording is that Jen didn't know, so I could tell her.
Yeah.
This is
My
I mean I am
Someone
I
doesn't
am
know.
I am shocked, stunned to my core. I guess I just haven't like Google like Hugh Grant is around, but he's not around. As I was talking with the interview with Claire, the woman who's in the movie, he's also in Dungeons and Dragons, a movie that
Mhm.
I very much enjoyed that came out recently. And he's just out there doing stuff. And normally I do Google people to see what they've been up to, but for whatever reason, I'm just like, let's look at Hugh Grant. There he is, looking good. I used to watch Bridget Jones once a year, every year, so I probably tend to revisit.
Well, what about The Edge of Reason? Do you
Oh,
watch
yeah.
do you watch that every year too, or no?
I didn't do the next two. They were illegal. They were both illegal. They were both bad.
Okay, fair.
Um,
That's fair. I want to say, so I want to talk a little bit about the 1999 of it all.
Yeah.
With this movie, we got a
I know, as we do.
comment from a listener named Spates Odds 1985 on Twitter. And hello, who said this week to us, as a Londoner who remembers 1999 clear as a day, the film was a fantastical rose-tinted look back. The vibe was very optimistic at the time. New government in power, 2000 on the verge. It was a film that could have only been made then. And we had a little exchange. I said, like, yes, that's how I feel as well. And I actually look at like the Richard Curtis trilogy of Four Weddings, Notting Hill, and Love Actually as like the kind of beginning, middle, and end of Cool Britannica. And it's like with like it really peaking with Notting Hill and kind of starting with Four Weddings, and then Love Actually is kind of like a peak / sort of like beginning of the farewell to this sort of feeling of Cool Britannica. And yeah, I think this is a really great encapsulation of like that period of time where London was just the coolest thing in the world for 10 years. And these three movies just like, they have this like weird nostalgia for this very specific kind of a moment. And I think that's also what, like, I like this better than Four Weddings and a Funeral. And this is this is my either first or second favorite romantic comedy of all time. And I think it's because I'm biased towards the year of like being British and like what was going on in Britain at the time. But yeah, it's a weird time capsule. And again, this is like my like peak Hugh Grant. Like my Hugh Grant peak is like 99 through like 2005. It's this, Bridget Jones, Love Actually, About a Boy. Like this is when he was just like on fire. And earlier Hugh Grant was like great, but like Sirens is great, and Four Weddings is great, and like The Man Who Went Up a Mountain and Came Down a Hill, or whatever it is great. But yeah, this is when he was like firing on all cylinders for me. Was these few years. So I think there's like a little bit. I have a personal bias towards loving this movie. But yeah, I still do, and it gives me not just the feels romantically, but the feels like culturally as well. In addition to, like, again, as we said, missing having friends. It's like a thing that where I'm
And
like,
now
"Aw."
you don't think
That was fun.
another 1999 movie that was like a pretty accurate depiction of London was Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me.
I
You
don't.
think
I
there's
can't wait to talk about it. We're going to eventually. I hate that movie, and we're gonna talk about
so
it at
you
some
don't feel
point.
like that London was no
No,
bueno. We know
no,
that London
that's
was
not it. That
okay,
ain't it.
so
No,
feels like
no.
that one really nailed it though. 1969. Anyway,
yeah.
I think that and then Courtney, I'd love to hear your peak, Hugh Grant. For me, and it's always going to be Bridget Jones, even though he's not nearly as a important a character as Mark or Bridget herself. And speaking of friendship again, I mean, I believed fully that they were all friends, even Moaning Myrtle. But like,
yeah.
Yep. So, like, and that was the only time we got to see his hair that long. And I just remember thinking, he should have, that's the length for him. And now that I know that Hugh Grant was like that, I was actually really playing myself there. I'm like, that's why it's so good.
Mm-hmm.
That's Hugh Grant.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, oh boy. And The Edge of Reason was terrible. But anyway, go ahead, Courtney. Who's your peak Hugh Grant?
Peak Hugh Grant is About a Boy and then Bridget Jones. And then Paddington 2. I'm telling you.
I'm gonna watch it. I'm just
I'll
like
watch Dungeons and Dragons if you watch that.
I will absolutely do that for you. But do I have to watch Paddington 1 to understand Paddington 2?
Have you not seen Paddington 1? Have you seen neither Paddington? Oh my God.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
good.
I'm
Hugh Bonneville in both
right.
of them. Very funny. Yeah.
God, I mean, to become the father from Downton Abbey, to go from that to Downton Abbey, what an incredible journey for him.
Yeah.
So anyway,
can we talk a little bit about? I think that 1999 not Hugh Grant, Notting Hill is actually a peak for that era's romantic comedies. Because I think a whole bunch of cookie cutter, less interesting stuff comes out after, like
we're probably going to cover it,
whatever, and even music and lyrics, and like there's a lot of stuff that comes out after that is cookie cutter. No one's taking any care writing them.
Not grounded in reality whatsoever. Totally wacky. Totally, and these are all American. I'm telling you. I mean, it's Richard Curtis.
I mean, Pretty Woman, and we did some good ones in the 90s. And this, I think it's the last of the era before. I mean, there's the exceptions. I think Bridget Jones is in the 2000s, but there are. Is it right? They're in like when's Bridget?
Yeah, Bridget's 2000 or 2001. I think. Right, John.
So,
I think
there's some exceptions in that decade, but the
British.
90s,
British,
true.
British.
But I think this is pretty peak, and then it starts to go real wonky from here, and less effort getting these romantic comedies to us, because I love the genre and I hated a lot of the movies.
Yeah, it starts to feel like if Judd Apatow is doing a rom-com, we're in trouble. We're in big trouble. Don't let him get his little meaty paws on a rom. Stick to the com, Judd. But I wonder if
you don't think Knocked Up is a rom-com?
48. Oh boy, did I feel like it was a rom-com, but I don't think it was. And and I like some Judd Apatow things. I got Freaks and Geeks was incredible. The end,
and but Knocked Up wasn't it. While filming, Judd Apatow realized that Katherine Heigl's character was like the sympathetic one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because she was written not
shocker.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I have no doubt that she fought for that, because she famously fought for herself in her roles, and of course the whole Grey's Anatomy kerfuffle. Katherine Heigl was never silent about wanting to be written better in general. But I think about the way that the music was getting angry and unacceptable in 99. And then the rom-coms, it was if they were being filtered through a frat boy lens.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all and I love a poop joke and a shitty fart, something. Love it. Please. I love it. Put it inside me.
Yeah.
I've got my own.
Yeah.
But, it just felt and I'm not just Judd Apatow, in general, it's all very goofy. I don't believe it for one. I don't believe any of them for 1 second.
Well, it's like the Matthew McConaughey ones, the Kate Hudson
Failure to
ones on the
launch.
stage. There's Made in Manhattan. Like there's a whole bunch in there that were just they thought they were touching on something that was like as clever as some of the 1940s ones, but they were just so cookie cutter and not interesting to me.
I agree.
So this for me, like, just fully fleshed out. And it's funny, because the main characters we all thought were the least interesting part of this, but not interesting enough that we all kind of put something on them, especially when we were younger, right? Now we're like, oh well, we've had the experience. We kind of feel a little differently about love and partnership.
Well, it's funny because I wonder sometimes I tend to focus on things I don't. Again, it's very obvious I don't have. Yeah, when I was younger, I'm in love now. Feels like the first, but and when I was younger, especially if it was 1999, I'm 19. I would have wanted the love thing because I was filled to the brim with friends. And now, and I do have friends, I want to be clear, but again, not these kinds. And now I'm in love. So I'm focusing on the thing that I'm currently slightly lacking in, which is like friendships that are that strong.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, you do tend to maybe focus on the thing you don't have in that moment. I wonder.
Yeah, I think I would imagine. And by the way, have you moved around as much as John and I have in your adult years?
I spent some time in LA. I spent some time in San Diego. I did not. A part of the reason why I think is also I didn't finish college. Brag. So I don't have that thing where people get their friends from college. The hit TV show Friends from College, but I didn't. So I don't have that. I've made friends, and they're all over the country. So if I think it's like you, Courtney. If I could put everyone in one location, I'd be great. But they're there, but they're not here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's all. And that's it. So that's it too. I'm also an only child. So sometimes I think I forget to talk to people. So sorry.
I just want you to know it's a completely normal experience, particularly if you're not in the vicinity of people you either went to, like, survived puberty with, or entry into adults. No, I swear
I
to God.
survived puberty, and all I got was this lousy menstrual cycle.
Exactly. But there are people like, you saw me at 13, and you still liked me. I'm indebted to you forever. Please don't be a mass murderer. Like there's.
And if you are, I'm sure I'll write about you.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Well, gosh, I hope everyone's not like calling 988 or anything. I'm great. I'm okay. I want to be clear. I have friends, but
what I think you're not realizing, Jen, is that it's really normal.
Yeah.
For us to ache for that kind of thing and have difficulty finding the people in like 5 miles of where you are.
Well, yeah, lots of things. So, but it's nice to see. It is nice to see it on the screen like in this fashion. So I think I'm going to seek out more of this kind of love.
Yeah.
In my future.
This kind of love, actually.
Cinematic. John, you did it. You said
I did. I got it. I got him. I came full. I came full. Well, not the movie. Different movie.
That's right. A different one.
I brought it home.
Were you guys as delighted to see? Were you guys as excited to see Matthew Modine and Alec Baldwin as I was? Because I had forgotten that they were in the movie.
Oh, that's right. In the fake movie. Oh,
in the black and white fake movie, which is fucking great. Like this was also when like Alec Baldwin was discovering his funniness, because he was like smoldering leading man guy, and then he started transitioning into like 30 Rock funny guy around this time. And I think this is like where he's kind of doing a little bit of meta commentary on that as well, where he like is playing the guy who the character is like the smoldering leading man romance star, but the character is, because it's Alec Baldwin, it's like funny because it's Alec Baldwin being a dick. Like, and it's a comedy role about a guy who like plays the kind of roles that Alec Baldwin used to play in like the 80s and 90s. And I just think that like, yeah, I mean, obviously mixed feelings about Alec Baldwin, but like, he's very, very funny as a. Did
you look up what he had been doing? I guess we could do it right now, because I can't remember where he was in his career. Was this before or after The Shadow?
This was after The Shadow.
Okay, that's all I know.
and it is right as he's moving into comedy territory. So I mean, 30 Rock is like 5 years after this where it starts.
Okay.
What was his first time hosting Saturday Night Live? I wonder.
Oh God, that must have been in like the
What a difference
the
5
early
years is
90s,
making on Alec
I would
Yes,
think.
truly.
Yeah, holy shit, man, he has done an awful lot of things. He has a good 500,000 credits as an actor on.
That's insane.
Yeah, literally, it says 500,000.
No.
No, it does not.
I got so excited.
Okay, so Outside Providence, also 1999, came out that year, straight. So we're going to talk about that one eventually. He made several movies in 1999, Jennifer. We could do a whole round just about Alec Baldwin. We got Thick as Thieves, we got Scout's Honor, we got Outside Providence, we got The Confession. It literally was here. So before this, he's got like Mercury Rising, The Confession, The Edge, Ghosts of Mississippi, The Juror. So he went from drama to comedy around this time. So he does Outside Providence at the same year as this. And then let's see, he's in Cats and Dogs in 2001. He's in The Royal Tenenbaums as the narrator in 2001. He does Friends in 2002. The Adventures of Pluto Nash in 2002.
Guys,
The Cooler, that was his first real big sort of comedy role.
Is that the William H. Macy?
Yeah. William H. Macy. It was great. It's a great movie. So yeah, this really is where he's like making that transition.
That's so interesting.
Right
because
here.
it's the smallest of roles. It's the smallest part. That's all we get is those few upsetting minutes.
Yeah, but it also feels like so genuinely him, and like that's what he's always wanted to do is like shit like this.
Anything that takes people away from wanting to do Mammoth is fine by me. Listen,
Sure.
He wants to just head that way. As a
he's so good in Glenn Ross, though.
Yeah,
I know.
Listen,
I know.
Always be.
We selling ABs.
Always be closing.
Yeah, always closing. That's it.
Yeah.
That scene was the saddest scene for me in the movie. That with Hugh Grant coming all the way up to her room and then being treated. That for me felt like the most heartbreaking.
Yeah.
More heartbreaking than when the actual heartbreak happens.
Yeah.
Like she leaves and he's, walking through seasons, literally. And I'm trying to figure out how long it's been based on this baby being born in the background. This woman's pregnant and then there's a baby. And I'm like, has it been a year? What? And then someone says 6 months. I'd love to talk about the passage of time for a second. But anyway, that scene was so shattering. I was gutted by it. Can you imagine?
Curtis has him floating through the Ritz because they just had the best, and he's this is the moment. I got the girl, and she's Anna Scott, right? And then he still has to be British in his reaction in the doorway where he's stuck taking and. Listen, Alec Baldwin in 1999 was like such a good choice. Similar to casting Julia Roberts as Anna. There's no other person that could play the American, red meat actor guy. And he wasn't even truly mean.
He was she's the one. She is so terrible in this movie that, again, I find myself wondering why Hugh Grant still likes this woman. She repeatedly treats him like garbage. And it's like, God damn, I wanted him to grow a pair.
Well, and I think that's what the criticism of like the critics who were like it's Hollywood feeling sorry for itself criticism, which I get, but I think more to the point, it's like someone being a fucking movie star is really fucked up, and there are people underneath those movie stars, and I think it's the only movie that I've ever seen that takes seriously that like there can be something traumatizing about it, and like she doesn't know how to navigate the things that she wants with the life that she's found herself in, and I agree that she sucks a lot of the time, but I also understand because I kept coming back to her and being like, I still root for you and I still want you to get the boy in the end. Which I guess,
but I'd like a better apology than an incredibly expensive painting is the thing. In the end, she still tried to like more or less buy him off, even if it was a heartfelt, gift. I know you like this painting.
Yeah.
Here's the real one. I'd
Yeah.
be like, ma'am, this is making me feel very uncomfortable. Please take this $10 million piece of artwork back.
I don't know the answer to this question, but Curtis really leans into the idea that she's the boy in the typical
Yes.
romantic comedy.
Yeah.
And they're not smart and they always make dumb mistakes and they're always like rude or distancing or whatever to the woman character. So she has to be, there has to be, you know, the coming together and then pulling apart by her being stupid in some way, shape, or form. I think that we just aren't as comfortable seeing, it's not as typical for us to see a chick doing that to somebody.
For sure.
I don't think I wasn't uncomfortable because I guess I just don't see gender when it comes to that. But I just remember thinking, Hugh Grant, you go to therapy and you figure out why you are accepting of this behavior. Are you that distraught and heartbroken from your divorce still that you think these breadcrumbs are all you are worthy of receiving, and it's okay because this is a beautiful actress, and how am I ever going to do better than that? Because also, how are you ever going to do better than that? That's a difficult relationship to move on with unless it's Emily Mortimer. But
Fair.
I was not like shocked that a woman was acting this way. I was still angry that the other person was allowing themselves to be treated this way, regardless of if it's a guy, gal, or
I think some of the push and pull, it kind of goes to John's point about her being stuck in a world. She keeps giving us these breadcrumbs about how she doesn't really appreciate that world, right? That like she breaks into that park and the thing that she's reading the bench and she's truly touched by it and she wants to sit with him at it. And, you know, he says, oh no, can we do it another time? Or maybe I can figure something else out about my sister's birthday. And she says that she wants to come. So there are breadcrumbs where she's saying, this isn't fulfilling. This isn't what I want. And I'd actually rather a normie, you know, I'd rather have some of the things you have. And she doesn't say anonymity and she doesn't say some of those things, but you know, she has to break into,
she had to have a whole park to herself.
Correct.
Just to feel normal.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I do think that when it comes to thinking, why is he taking this from her? I think that I believed her moments of wanting, like you have her, you know, the point of view of watching her gaze at the friends at the dinner table and thinking like, this is what I want. You know what I mean? There are just some moments there where I believed she wanted something that's similar to that.
That's right.
Can I make two other gripes about this movie? So one, in terms of suspension of disbelief, and this is fine. These aren't real gripes. These aren't real gripes. Okay. One is, at no point in the history of the city of London, England, has there been that little traffic so that when they all get into Hugh Bonneville's fucking station wagon, there's no way they're getting anywhere in the amount of time that they and the only time there is traffic is when Reese Ifans has to go out there and like stop traffic for everybody. It's a plot point. I'm like, how are the streets this empty? This is not plausible. Sorry, no. All right, so that's one thing. Here's my other question. This is a much more important question. How thick is Hugh Grant's front door that nobody can hear 1 million paparazzi immediately outside as soon as you close that door?
What? I said the same thing to my person. I said, "What is?" It felt like it was like a, you know, like it was Ace Ventura. I was like, "What is happening?" They were just waiting for it to open and silently, like, shh, it's coming, it's coming.
Well, they do. He has markets outside his house, like consistently. They've planted that a few times.
Sure, but this is 1 million people yelling and screaming outside the front door.
Was goofy.
Right. What sort of sound barrier was there actually up the stairs? Because like he goes and he's in like, how did she not hear something that's pretty typical to her?
No.
Up the stairs. That one I can buy.
Yeah.
Can I ask you something about Reese Ifans when he gets out?
Yeah.
Is bugger this for a bunch of bananas actually typically is that is that something like I basically decided that if Mum Brooks doesn't say a certain statement that no English
thing.
person does.
Yeah.
Right. So, but is it
Yeah.
bugger this for a bunch of bananas? Is that?
Are you
I've
asking
never
her? 'Cause it's probably
heard.
late over there.
I've never
No,
heard.
she's in Massachusetts.
Oh,
But
never mind. Text her now.
eh,
She British, obviously. I'd love to
yeah,
hear
yeah.
that. I'd love to get that
the
accent.
things. Listen, John won't do it for you because he won't do it for me, and it's terrible.
Yeah.
He does it for his parents. It's not fair.
I don't do it for
You
my
know who's
parents.
also raised by a British woman? Jason Bateman.
Yeah.
And he does it. He does the accent.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know, bugger this for, what does it mean?
So it gets mostly cited as a quote from Notting Hill. So I think it is just a like bugger that like
the meaning the meaning is in the definition is in the meaning is in the definition.
Well, yeah, but like because mom says like screw this for a lark or whatever, right? You say like
does
blank
she say
this
Bob's
for
your uncle?
no,
yeah, she does
sometimes,
but
it's like bad word this for random noun. You can kind of like make anything out of
any old noun.
Any old noun. Yeah. So
oh my God, I'm looking around for a noun.
Yeah.
What's happening? Bugger this for no. Okay, that's fantastic.
So bugger this, and then like bugger this for a whatever. I think is a pretty common thing. I think the a bunch of bananas or whatever it is he says is made up for the movie for his like own little catchphrase. I don't think it means. It doesn't seem based on what the internet says to be a common saying. It seems like it came from Notting Hill.
Yeah.
I do think that he could have turned up the Britishisms up a little bit higher on this movie if I was to.
I mean, I would have had to turn on the subtitles. Would have been touch and go for this gal.
Yeah. Anyway.
I wish that instead of getting into a car and doing a dramatic scene, we had to watch them like rush crazily around only to like cut to them sitting silently on the tube together because that's what the transportation they chose to take. So this frenetic energy of we've got to go, and then it's just like ding, ding.
Mind the gap
tube waiting
between the train and the platform.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. Also,
yeah,
there it was. Best. I have a question for you as well. And this, I'm like, okay. The ending, I don't like. I think the whole thing of just like panning.
Wait, which ending? The very last thing?
The very last
thing. It leads into the rom, John.
Why does she have her being pregnant seems like a very like heteronormative 1990s thing to do, and it's just sort of.
Now I'm having another thought about his divorce. He wanted children. His first wife didn't want children.
Oh,
you think to yourself, why would they have discussed this earlier on? That is a great question.
It's in the 3.5.
Now in my mind, he always wanted children. And
maybe
his first wife did not. But anyway, you're right. And also, are we to believe now, John? You are representing the United Kingdom right now. Do enormous private parks like that? They're a thing. Is that a common thing? In London?
Not enormous
that,
one,
because that it seemed quite big. I couldn't really get a handle on the size, but they're strolling through something that in my mind was just a slightly big backyard. But the way they were strolling at night made me feel like there's quite a bit of ground they could cover. Mm-hmm. And then of course there's people at the end doing Tai Chi. There's children playing. This is a huge.
No, I don't think that's the same park.
That's not the same park. They're in
because they were on the bench.
Like St. James Park. I think it's a different bench though.
They were on that bench.
I don't think it's the same.
Did they get their own bench at a different park?
Maybe. I think they just like.
Oh, I kind of thought maybe they had. I thought maybe they had found their way into a house that's butted up against the park, or maybe she just bought the whole goddamn park, which is also what I thought happened.
Yeah, I don't.
And
think
was
so.
allowed. And maybe, you know what I think happened? They own it, and instead of keeping it private, okay, this is a bit of a metaphor. Now the park is open to the public, which is why we now see, because they made a point of talking about how private it was. So now at the end, we've got all kinds of action going on that I can't believe all those people live in these houses. So now it's like, here's our little metaphor. What once was shut and closed out and keeping the world out, we have now opened up ourselves and the world around us in the form of this park. Am I reading too much into this park? Mm-hmm. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do.
Okay. Jen, it's a park?
I still think it's a different park, only because
I do too.
London is flush with public spaces.
Well, maybe it's still a metaphor, like we've got our own park, but our park won't be private. Our park will be.
Oh, because she doesn't have to be private all the time now. She can go out in public. That's it. Exactly. Yes. Yeah. So now she can be a public person because she has taken control of her own life and career. I like that reading.
Yes, maybe that's the metaphor.
The best.
Does Bernie get together with the girl from the press conference?
Oh, for sure.
That's what
Yes,
I
yes,
want.
yes. No, everybody
I want
gets
the next movie. Yeah, please tell me.
Richard
Absolutely.
Curtis's endings are like everybody gets together with the person. Like that's just implied. Like Liam Neeson
It
gets
better,
together with like
'cause-
the fake Claudia Schiffer. It's it's just
Mhm.
yes, it all happens. It all happens for everybody
Okay,
in the
then.
end.
Did you know that if you haven't checked it out, Rotten Tomatoes has a 200 all-time greatest romantic comedies list.
Okay. Yep.
And this movie was number 91.
No, that's too low.
I thought
That's too low.
super deep, right?
That's
But
too
if you go into the Rotten Tomatoes list,
Yeah.
it is very diverse, and I don't actually count all of them.
So
as romantic comedies.
is it? We're talking like
It's
obviously
global. It's
everywhere.
forever,
Okay.
right? And I do still agree that it's too deep in that list.
Hmm.
But imagine the list that has Notting Hill at number 91.
Global.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
that's
There are.
What was number one?
I think it was Philadelphia Story. I want to
Okay. I
say.
thought you were going to say Philadelphia, period. And I was like, that is not a
No,
global.
yeah,
fair, though,
exactly.
like-
That's where we disagree.
Rotten Tomatoes doesn't curate those lists. It's based on the actual Rotten Tomato rating, and they just
tomato meter?
they organize it that way. So that's part of the reason why.
But then that does allow for a greater amount of indie films and LGBTQIA romantic comedies, and so it's a really interesting list if you like the genre. But on the Vanity Fair list of the top 40 something, it was number 11. Yeah, well, sure, but it was number 11.
Okay.
But it did beat my favorite, which is His Girl Friday, and I'm not sure that's accurate. Which isn't really a romantic comedy, honestly. There's like 2 scenes with Cary Grant and Rosalind Russell in them, and the first one is damn amazing, and then it becomes this kind of little feminist movie where Rosalind Russell is an amazing journalist and gets someone off death row. Anyway, there you go. It was actually Rosalind Russell's character was this was a Broadway show, and Rosalind Russell's character was a man in the Broadway show. It was changed for the Hollywood movie. So it's pretty great.
What was it? Was it still called His Girl Friday?
Yeah. Yep, it's from like 1939.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or 41 or something there.
We should start wrapping up soon, I think. But Jen, do you have any of your dug up nuggets of trivia that you got on the?
Well, I've been just dropping a couple now and again. I mean, honestly, the most repeated bit of information we've touched on, which is this frustrating idea that this was somehow a sequel to Four Weddings and a Funeral, and the amount of times everyone had to repeat in press junkets and various interviews, it's just, this is not that, this is not that, this is not that. And I do think if people were going into this motion picture with that thought, that informed their viewing, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, there was an interview recently, and I had pulled it, and I forgot to pull the quote, so it won't be helpful. But literally in 2024, Julia Roberts just did an interview, and of course, all the pulled quotes are, "She almost said no to Notting Hill," and I'm like, okay. And when I read about her playing this part, because she was obviously asked, "How do you do this?" Because it seems like you're maybe playing yourself, and she said, well, obviously there are aspects of this that I can clearly understand, but in every decision that Anna Scott made, she was like, I would have done the opposite. So in terms of like, she said she worked really hard actually, because instinctively she would have not done any of these things. So this was not really Julia Roberts just being a version of Julia Roberts at all, which I really appreciated her also more or less saying, this woman's kind of an asshole. And even though my current husband did cheat on his wife with me, I shouldn't say that part. I'm not an asshole, except for that time that I put like his ex-wife's name on a t-shirt and like wore it all around. That sucked. That made me, didn't look great, but I am still America's Sweetheart, a movie that came out 2 years later that I really enjoy.
Yep. I do too.
That's my fact.
Yeah, she was playing definitely a vanilla asshole in this film.
Yeah.
Because I really do feel like she's more like the person who goes into the store after she has some money and says, big mistake. Huge. Right. I feel like she's more like that person, and like the
satisfying though.
Yeah. Oof. So good.
Satisfying. I don't know the full story around this, but apparently Nicole Kidman was considered for the role of Anna, but was it was decided that she was not talented enough. That's
Wow.
yep.
You know what though? Again, I maybe it's just because we've only. No, she couldn't do this. I'm not saying she's not talented enough. I can't see her.
Mm-hmm.
I can't put her into this movie. I really can't, because Julia Roberts still has to have that, like, I want to say girl next door look, even though that's weird. But Nicole Kidman pops too much.
Yeah.
And while Julia Roberts is beautiful, it's
Yep.
still like a very like approachable beautiful. And I think Nicole Kidman is a little too severe, a little too, maybe not 99 Nicole, because maybe I'm not remembering what she looked like in 99. Totally possible. But she just seems a little too stiff for me. I don't think she could have pulled off some of the more comedic parts. Even though I've seen her, I mean, obviously the Stepford Wives reboot or whatever she was great in that. But nah, I don't see
She's
her.
not very warm.
That's what I'm. Yes, thank you
Yes.
for that's Courtney.
I
Thank you.
was
But she
thinking. I
is
mean, it
very
took me 30
talented. It's not
amazing, and
Incredibly talented.
even being, because I was thinking, well, she was the object of desire in a very similar way in Moulin Rouge,
Yeah.
and pulled it off brilliantly.
Yeah.
But it's you need a warmth in this
Yeah.
that you
Different-
didn't need
different
as
movie.
a prostitute from
Yeah.
1800 whatever France, Paris.
You needed a different sex worker, and that was Julia Roberts.
Exactly right.
Couple other things. The travel bookstore is real. I think it recently went up for sale. But also the house that they filmed in was Richard Curtis's old house.
Richard.
So he used to.
Oh my God,
used
that
to
must
live
have been
there.
very strange and wonderful for him.
Yeah, and then so last thing, I think this is really interesting as a little bit of 99 trivia. Omid Jalili, who plays the cashier at the coffee shop, was filming The Mummy at the same time at the same studio, so he very conveniently was conscripted to fill the part. I think it's wonderful that The Mummy and this movie were filming at the same time at the same studio. Like, what a weird walk down the hallway that would have been to go from this set to that one. But there you go.
You know, if they flipped this and made it be a British actor and an American normal guy,
Rachel Weisz and Brendan Fraser.
I could have seen it. If those two had to switch places,
Yeah.
I could have seen it.
Yeah.
I
like
mean,
it.
I don't know.
like it.
Yeah, I could see it.
Yep, for sure. Okay, so this was really fun. Thank you guys. Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks,
That's fun.
spouse.
You're not going to ask me for all my handles.
I'm gonna no. Well, not no.
Favorite
Yeah,
movies
to
Come on
see
now.
videos of our children.
Come on.
Here's where to go. All right, so Courtney
Yeah.
Brooks, what is your
Yeah.
favorite movie from 1999? Is it this one?
Ooh, yeah, you're allowed to look them up too, because I had to zip through the list once. myself.
I'm trying to think of the things I listened to you guys do already,
Yeah.
whether it's Jen or Joey. I'm actually going to say this one.
Mm-hmm.
That's so boring. No, I erase that. I am
a good choice.
You edit these, right?
Yeah,
You edit these.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to say.
I'm leaving that in.
I didn't see anything.
Well, it's funny because in 1999, I had worked at a movie theater for 3 years, but 1994 to 1997, it was my favorite job ever.
Okay. Can I tell you something? I worked in a movie theater for 3 years in high school as well, during the Titanic rush, might I add. And it too was my favorite job ever. The butter-stained pants, the navy pants of my youth, taking home trash bags full of popcorn by the end of the night, putting cups on my hands and saying, "Oh no, I'm cup hand and I can't get to the register right now." That's just a specific. But yes. Did you guys do anything where you did like screeners? Like movies would come in and we'd show them at midnight just to our friends on Thursdays.
Yes.
Oh my God.
I also was a projectionist, which was my very favorite part. Once I really learned how to put the movies together, and I used
That's
to
cool.
make bookmarks out of the trailers. Like Matthew McConaughey was like so beautiful in A Time to Kill, and I made me and my friends. I don't think I'm supposed to, and please don't come and arrest me now. 40 years later. No, the American.
The MPAA.
Whatever, yeah, exactly. You're not supposed to destroy the films, but I cut them up and put thread on the side and made them bookmarks, because then you could look up and see how beautiful he was. Anyway,
That's wonderful. I love that.
So I'm gonna say I actually have I have a few. So Election,
Yeah.
Toy Story 2,
Yeah.
and Talented Mr. Ripley. Because
Yes.
though I just said how beautiful Matthew McConaughey was, I've never seen anyone as beautiful as Jude Law.
No, there's never been
in
anybody
Talented
as
Mr. Ripley on
beautiful as
screen.
Jude Law in
Just
Talented Mr.
That
Ripley.
was,
It's impossible for
I
anybody.
mean,
Yeah.
the first time I saw on the Italy seaside, just the arrogance and the whole bit
Yeah,
of
hair, curly,
oof, the
curlies.
oof, and tan. Stop it. And like the clothes. Anyway, so Talented Mr. Ripley, Election, and Toy Story 2.
That's great.
I'm not just picking one.
Those are incredible
the
picks.
upcoming black and white Netflix series adaptation of Ripley has like inverted it, where Ripley is Andrew Scott, who's like one of the most beautiful people on the planet, and then the guy who plays Dickie is like kind of fine looking. It's an interesting kind of inversion of the 99.
But Andrew Scott can
version.
look not hot.
Yeah, he's a bit of a a bit of a two-face.
Yeah, he's a chameleon
he's
that way.
Pretty person. Like he just has he's got pretty features.
I think that makes sense to have Dickie be normal looking, because like, you know, it says to you, this guy is here because he's wealthy, and it has nothing to do, because like Jude Law, if he was poor as a church mouse in this movie, would still be with these people because he's like it's ridiculously attractive.
Yeah.
But you have to have a normal looking Rumpelstiltskin with shit ton of money to understand why they are in this crowd. And then you have to have the guy who's incredibly beautiful but poor but lying, sneaking his way in.
Yeah,
that's how it's got to happen.
Well, the other good thing about Andrew Scott is that he's quite ageless, so they can do the whole Ripley series, and like it will make sense
up or down, that's wonderful. I can't wait for this.
Yeah. So I hope they do.
Nothing will be Hot Priest though.
Courtney, what's your favorite movie of all time?
Well, His Girl Friday. I just talked about it 1,700 times.
Yeah.
And in my heart, it's Goonies or E.T.
Mm-hmm.
But I should have said Citizen Kane and just waited to see if anyone
I would have been visibly.
I'm pretty sure you've seen Citizen Kane, but I can't like confirm that you've seen Citizen Kane because we have not seen it together in the
Yes, I have seen Citizen Kane.
Many years.
Yeah, just a few minutes ago, she dropped a snow globe.
No, I know.
Stairs that it shattered. But yeah, she's seen it.
I know.
In college, I was slightly obsessed with Orson Welles.
Yeah.
Because like he did that movie. I think he was 25
because he never had his real nose.
No,
in any movie.
Yes, but also like the Mercury. I mean, I think he fooled the entire nation when he was 25 years old, and like 2 years later made Citizen Kane. So I was fascinated by him and the Mercury Theater saying the world was ending, and he knew
War of the Worlds thing. Yeah,
War of the Worlds.
War of the Worlds.
Yeah, he knew that people were leaving their other show to come there, so he made it like 10 minutes in that it was real, and it was good. Anyway, I was obsessed with him for a little while, but I just would have thought it would have been hilarious to watch your faces, and
I would have felt
tried
so
to be
sad.
but you would have been so polite about it and like interesting.
I would have been like, it's like always on AFI's top, like it's never going to fall off it. So that makes sense. Yeah.
Rose,
we love to sled. I love sledding.
Yes.
Love sledding.
Yeah. That's what makes the character so relatable, really, is that everybody's like, oh, sledding.
That's it. I'm like, hey, I've also sledded.
I've been there. Yeah. Yep. All right.
Okay.
We're going to get going.
All right. I know we got to go.
Do we? Okay.
I know.
We'll be back next time for more Julia Roberts fun. Runaway Bride. Coming at you live from where it was filmed.
That's right.
Next time around, Jen is going to go to the place where Runaway Bride was filmed and come back with a bunch of field notes.
Yeah, if you think they haven't really capitalized on that in Berlin, Maryland, think again.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Courtney. Go give the girls a hug, and we'll see you next time. Look out for frogs.
The smile on your face lets me know that you need me. There's a truth in your eyes saying you'll never leave me. The touch of your hand says you'll catch me where me at best when you say nothing at all.